Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, The Return. Derek Morrison adjusted his tactical watch as the C-130 touched down at Dover Air Force Base. 6 months in the Afghan mountains had carved away the last remnants of softness from his already hardened frame. At 38, the Special Operations veteran carried himself with the lethal grace of a predator, his steel-gray eyes missing nothing as he surveyed the familiar landscape of Delaware. The mission had been classified, extracting a high-value asset from Taliban territory, but Derek's mind wasn't on the operation's success. For weeks, something had gnawed at him. The phone calls home had grown shorter, Brianna's voice more distant. His 16-year-old daughter Amy's texts had become cold, almost hostile. Even Luke, his 14-year-old son who idolized him, seemed different during their video calls. Derek's instincts, honed by 15 years in special operations, screamed that something was wrong. He'd learned to trust those instincts. They kept him alive through 3 deployments in Iraq and 2 in Afghanistan. As he walked through the terminal, Derek noticed the stairs. At 6'3", with shoulders that strained his uniform, he commanded attention. But more than his physical presence, it was the aura of controlled violence that made people step aside. His fellow operators called him the Wolf, not because he hunted in packs, but because once he marked prey, he never stopped stalking. Derek had met Brianna 12 years ago at a military charity gala in Virginia Beach. She was 24 then, a stunning brunette with emerald eyes and a smile that could disarm even him. Brianna had been working as a pharmaceutical sales rep, ambitious and driven. She pursued him relentlessly, claiming she'd always been attracted to military men. They married within 8 months. The early years had been good. Brianna seemed to thrive as a military wife, hosting gatherings for other spouses, organizing charity events. She'd given birth to Amy 2 years into their marriage, then Luke 2 years later. Derek had believed they were building something solid, something worth fighting for. But as Derek's career progressed and his deployments became more frequent, cracks began to appear. Brianna grew resentful of his absences, complained about raising the children alone. She'd started drinking wine earlier in the evenings, spending more time on social media, going out with friends Derek had never met. 3 years ago, Brianna had surprised him by suggesting they move to an upscale neighborhood in Wilmington. She'd inherited money from her aunt, she claimed, enough for a substantial down payment on an $800,000 house. Derek had been suspicious. Brianna's family wasn't wealthy, but she'd shown him the documentation. The inheritance story checked out. Now, as Derek climbed into his Ford Raptor in the airport parking garage, he wondered if he'd been played. His phone buzzed with a text from his unit commander. Package delivered. Enjoy your leave, Wolf. You've earned it. Derek started the engine and began the 40-minute drive home. He'd planned to surprise Brianna and the kids, arriving a day early from what they thought was a 2-week training exercise. The truth that he'd been in Afghanistan on a Black Ops mission was something his family could never know. As he drove through the tree-lined streets of their neighborhood, Derek's unease intensified. The houses here cost more than most people made in 5 years. Perfectly manicured lawns, luxury cars in every driveway, the scent of old money and newer pretensions. It was a far cry from the military base housing where they'd started their marriage. Derek pulled into his driveway at 3:47 p.m. Brianna's white BMW X5 was absent, unusual for a Tuesday afternoon. Through his training, Derek had developed an almost supernatural awareness of patterns and disruptions. The neighbor's dog, a German shepherd named Rex, didn't bark at his arrival. Rex always barked at strangers, but not at Derek. This meant someone else had been coming and going regularly, someone Rex now recognized. Instead of using his key, Derek decided to observe first. He moved around to the backyard with a silent precision that had made him legendary among his peers. The sliding door to the patio was unlocked, a security violation he'd discussed with Brianna multiple times. Derek's jaw tightened. Inside, the house felt different. Not just empty, but deliberately arranged. Brianna had always been particular about cleanliness, but this felt staged. No evidence of daily living. No coffee mugs in the sink. No magazines scattered on the counter. No shoes by the door. Derek moved through his own home like a ghost, photographing everything with his phone. In the master bedroom, he found what he was looking for. The bed was made, but Derek could see the indentations where two people had lain recently. On Brianna's nightstand, partially hidden beneath a jewelry box, was a receipt from a restaurant he'd never heard of, Romano's Bistro, dated 3 days ago. Dinner for two, $147. But it was the bathroom that confirmed his suspicions. A men's deodorant he didn't recognize sat on the counter. Old Spice Swagger, not the unscented antiperspirant Derek had used for years. In the shower, a bottle of men's shampoo nestled between Brianna's expensive products. Derek's phone buzzed. A text from Brianna, still at Amy's soccer practice. Home around 6. Luke's at Tyler's house for a sleepover. Love you, Tyler. Derek's blood chilled. Tyler Hoffman was their neighbor, a divorced real estate developer who'd moved in 18 months ago. Tall, tan, the kind of man who drove a Porsche and wore designer suits to grocery stores. Derek had disliked him instantly. Something about the way Tyler looked at Brianna, the way he always seemed to be outside when she was gardening, the way he'd offer to help with household repairs whenever Derek was deployed. Now Derek understood. Tyler's house was 4 doors down, with a perfect view of Derek's driveway. Tyler would know exactly when Derek left for deployments and when he returned. The perfect lookout for an affair. Derek sat in his kitchen, processing the betrayal with the cold calculation that had made him one of the military's most effective operators. Anger was a luxury he couldn't afford. Not yet. First, he needed intelligence. He needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal, identify all the players, and plan his response. He pulled out his laptop and began his reconnaissance. Tyler Hoffman, age 35, divorced for 3 years. His ex-wife, Linda, had received a substantial settlement after claiming emotional abuse. No criminal record, but Derek's contacts could dig deeper than public records. Tyler's real estate business, Hoffman Properties, specialized in luxury homes and commercial developments. On paper, he was successful, but Derek's trained eye noticed irregularities in the financial filings. The numbers didn't quite add up. Income seemed inflated, expenses oddly categorized. More importantly, Derek discovered that Tyler had been involved in Brianna's house purchase. He'd been the listing agent for 3 properties she'd supposedly looked at before finding their current home. The inheritance story began to unravel in Derek's mind. What if Tyler had helped manufacture the documentation? What if this entire neighborhood move had been orchestrated to bring Brianna closer to her lover? Derek's phone rang. Brianna. Hey, baby. I thought you weren't coming back until tomorrow. Change of plans, Derek said, his voice carefully neutral. Training ended early. Oh, well, I'm just finishing up some errands. Tyler offered to help me pick up Luke from his friend's house since you weren't going to be home. Isn't that sweet of him? Sweet. Derek's grip tightened on the phone. Very thoughtful. I should be home in about an hour. Amy's staying at Jessica's tonight. They have a project due tomorrow. So it'll just be us for dinner. I was thinking of ordering from that Italian place you like. Derek almost laughed. His wife was scrambling to keep their son away for the night, probably so she and Tyler could decide how to handle Derek's unexpected return. Sound perfect, he said. I'll be here. After hanging up, Derek made 2 phone calls. The first was to Master Sergeant Rodriguez, his former team leader who now worked in military intelligence. Ray, I need a favor. Deep background check on a Tyler Hoffman, Delaware resident. Everything you can find. How deep we talking, Wolf? Submarine deep. I think someone's been playing games with my family. You got it. Give me 48 hours. The second call was to his brother-in-law, Mike Chun, a cybersecurity expert who owed Derek several favors. Mike, I need you to clone a phone remotely. Can you walk me through it? Within 30 minutes, Derek had installed spyware on both Brianna's and Tyler's phones using techniques Mike had taught him. Every text, call, and location would now be tracked. Every photo, every email, every app interaction would be recorded and sent to a secure server Derek controlled. By the time Brianna arrived home at 6:30, Derek had transformed back into the loving husband. He greeted her with a kiss, helped her with groceries, asked about her day. But behind his warm smile, the wolf was hunting. Chapter 2. The Web Unravels. Derek woke at 0500 hours, as he had every day for the past 15 years. Beside him, Brianna slept peacefully, her dark hair spread across the pillow. She looked innocent in sleep, almost like the young woman he'd married. Almost. The phone monitoring had been active for 36 hours, and the results were devastating. Derek had read every message, listened to every call. The affair had been going on for 8 months, starting just 2 weeks after his last deployment. But worse than the sexual betrayal was the systematic poisoning of his children's minds. Tyler had convinced Brianna that Derek was psychologically damaged by combat, potentially dangerous to the family. He'd filled her head with stories about PTSD-driven domestic violence, military divorces that ended in tragedy. Brianna, in turn, had planted these seeds of fear in Amy and Luke. Derek read the message chain from the previous night. Brianna, he's home. What do we do? Tyler, stick to the plan. Act normal. I've got everything ready for when we make our move. Brianna, I'm scared. What if he finds out? Tyler, he won't. Military guys are too simple, too straightforward. He'll never see it coming. Derek's jaw had clenched at that last message. Too simple, too straightforward. He'd spent his career outthinking insurgents, terrorists, and enemy operatives. Tyler Hoffman was about to learn the difference between a soldier and a special operations veteran. Derek made coffee and began his morning intelligence review. His contact, Rodriguez, had delivered a preliminary report on Tyler. Born Tyler Kozlowski in Newark, New Jersey. Changed his name 12 years ago after a bankruptcy. His real estate license had been suspended twice for ethical violations. Most interesting, Tyler's divorce hadn't been due to irreconcilable differences. His ex-wife Linda had filed restraining orders citing threats and intimidation. Derek's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from another contact, Captain Sarah Kim, who now worked with the Army's Criminal Investigation Division. Wolf, that name you gave me flagged in our database. Call me. Secure line only. Derek stepped onto the back patio and dialed Sarah's number. Derek, your Tyler Hoffman has been on our radar for 2 years, Sarah said without preamble. We believe he's been targeting military wives during deployments, specifically those with access to sensitive information or valuable assets. What kind of targets? Wives of officers, special operations personnel, intelligence analysts. The pattern is always the same. He moves into neighborhoods with high military populations, identifies vulnerable targets, initiates affairs, then either extracts information or manipulates financial situations to his advantage. Derek felt the pieces clicking into place. How many wives? That we know of? 12 in the past 4 years. Delaware, Virginia, Maryland. He moves around, never stays in one area too long. Your wife isn't his first, Derek. She won't be his last unless we stop him. What's his endgame? Varies. Sometimes it's identity theft, sometimes financial manipulation. Twice we suspect he's sold operational information to foreign contacts. But here's the thing, we've never been able to prove anything. He's careful, always leaves himself clean legal exits. After ending the call, Derek sat in his backyard, processing this revelation. Tyler wasn't just a predator who'd seduced his wife. He was a professional operator targeting military families. The affair was business, not passion. Derek's phone chimed with a text from Amy. Dad, I need to talk to you. Can you pick me up from school today? Please don't tell Mom. Interesting. Derek replied, Of course. I'll be there at 3:30. At 1,400 hours, Derek drove to Wilmington High School. Amy was waiting by the flagpole, looking nervously around. At 16, she'd inherited Brianna's beauty, but had Derek's analytical eyes. She climbed into the truck without speaking. Drive somewhere we can talk privately, Amy said. Not home. Derek drove to a park overlooking the Delaware River. Amy was quiet until he parked. Then she turned to face him with tears in her eyes. Dad, I need to tell you something, and I don't know how. Just say it, sweetheart. Mom's been lying to you. About everything. Amy's words came out in a rush. She's been seeing Tyler for months. She told Luke and me that you were becoming dangerous, that we needed to be careful around you. She said Tyler was helping protect us. Derek kept his voice gentle. What changed your mind? Yesterday, after you came home, I heard Tyler on the phone with someone. He was talking about completing the operation and extracting maximum value. Dad, he was talking about our family like we were some kind of mission. Amy pulled out her phone. I recorded part of it. I was scared, so I hid in the upstairs hallway. Derek listened to the audio. Tyler's voice was clear. The target's home early, but we're still on schedule. The wife's completely turned. Kids are mostly compliant. Give me 2 more weeks, and I'll have everything we need. Bank accounts, property deeds, and if there's any classified material in the house, I'll find it. Derek's blood turned to ice. Tyler wasn't just targeting Brianna. He was conducting espionage against a special operations veteran. Amy, I need you to listen carefully. You and Luke might be in danger. Not from me, from Tyler. I need you to trust me and do exactly what I tell you. What kind of danger? Derek made a decision. Amy was 16, mature enough to handle partial truth. Tyler isn't who he claims to be. He's done this before, to other military families. The police are investigating him. Amy's eyes widened. Does Mom know? I don't think so. I think she believes she's in love with him. What are we going to do? Derek studied his daughter's face. She had his steel, his determination. We're going to protect this family. But I need you to act normal around your mother and Tyler. Can you do that? Yes, sir. That evening, Derek played the perfect husband. He grilled steaks while Brianna chatted about her day, helped Luke with homework, watched television with his family. But his mind was working constantly, analyzing angles, developing strategies. At 2,200 hours, after Brianna fell asleep, Derek slipped into his home office. He began drafting what would become Tyler Hoffman's destruction. But this wouldn't be a simple matter of exposing an affair or filing for divorce. Tyler had made this personal when he'd targeted Derek's family as part of a larger operation. Derek opened an encrypted laptop he'd never told Brianna about. Inside were contacts accumulated over 15 years of special operations. Intelligence analysts, cybersecurity experts, former operators now working in the private sector, and a few individuals whose services existed in legal gray areas. He sent 3 messages. First, to Rodriguez. Need complete financial breakdown on Tyler Hoffman. Bank records, property holdings, business transactions. All of it. Second, to a contact in the NSA. Need deep surveillance package on Tyler Hoffman. Phone, internet, travel, everything. Expedite. Third, to a former Delta Force operator named Mitchell Brooks who now ran a private security firm. Need to meet. In person. Tomorrow. Bring your best people. Derek's final task was to access the home security system. 6 months ago, at Tyler's suggestion, Brianna had upgraded to a sophisticated network that included cameras inside and outside the house. What Brianna didn't know was that Derek had insisted on military-grade encryption and his own administrative access. Derek spent 2 hours reviewing 6 months of footage. The evidence was overwhelming. Tyler had been in his house dozens of times, often staying overnight when Derek was deployed. But more damning was footage of Tyler photographing documents in Derek's office, using professional equipment to copy papers Derek thought were secure. One video made Derek's hands shake with rage. It showed Tyler in Luke's bedroom, planting something behind the boy's desk. Derek paused, enhanced the image, and recognized it as a listening device. Tyler had bugged his son's room. Derek closed the laptop and walked to the window overlooking Tyler's house. Lights were on in the living room. Through the blinds, Derek could see 2 figures, Tyler and another man Derek didn't recognize. Derek's phone vibrated with a text from Tyler's phone, intercepted by his monitoring software. The message was to an unknown number. Assets been compromised. Subject shows signs of awareness. Recommend acceleration to final phase. The response came immediately. Authorized. Complete extraction within 72 hours. Clean exit protocols in effect. Derek smiled for the first time in days. Tyler was about to make his move, probably planning to manipulate Brianna into leaving with the children, taking as much money and information as possible. But Tyler had made a fatal error in judgment. He'd assumed Derek was just another simple soldier, another mark to be exploited. Derek Morrison wasn't simple. He was the wolf, and the hunt was about to begin. Chapter 3. The trap is set. Derek stood in his kitchen at 0600 hours, coffee in hand, watching Tyler's house through the window. His target's routine was predictable. Morning run at 0630, shower, protein smoothie, then an hour of phone calls before heading to his office. The previous night's surveillance had been illuminating. The unknown man in Tyler's house was Marcus Webb, former military intelligence turned private contractor. Derek's contacts had identified him within 4 hours. Webb specialized in what the intelligence community called social engineering, manipulating targets through personal relationships. Derek's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Mitchell Brooks. Package assembled. Team standing by. What's the mission? Derek typed back. Full spectrum takedown. Legal, financial, physical, psychological. Target has committed federal crimes against military family. No limits. Roger that, Wolf. Game time. 72 hours. Derek pocketed his phone as Brianna entered the kitchen. She was dressed for her morning yoga class, but Derek noticed the outfit was more revealing than usual. Tight pants, low-cut top. Performance clothes, not exercise clothes. Morning, baby, she said, kissing his cheek. You were restless last night. Bad dreams. Something like that, Derek replied, studying her face. Brianna was an excellent actress, but Derek had been trained to read micro-expressions. The slight tension around her eyes, the forced casualness of her smile. She was nervous about something. I've got yoga, then lunch with the girls. Might be late today. We're thinking of going shopping after. Which girls? Brianna hesitated for a fraction of a second. Just some neighbors. Linda, Sarah, you know. Derek nodded, but he'd already checked her calendar through the phone monitoring. No yoga class was scheduled. No lunch plans. What she did have was a 2 p.m. appointment at First National Bank, an appointment Tyler had made for her. After Brianna left, Derek made his first move. He called Amy's school and Luke's middle school, informing them that both children would be picked up by their father at 2 p.m. for a family emergency. Then he called his ex-partner from Afghanistan, Sergeant Major Tony Ricci, now working private security in D.C. Tony, I need a babysitting job. 2 teenagers, my kids. Safe house situation. How hot is the situation? Federal investigation hot. I need them completely isolated for 72 hours. Consider done. When and where? Derek provided coordinates for a cabin he owned in rural Maryland, purchased under a different name 3 years earlier. Tony would collect Amy and Luke from school, explain that their father was handling a dangerous situation, and keep them safe until Derek gave the all-clear. At 1,100 hours, Derek drove to Tyler's real estate office. Hoffman Properties occupied a sleek glass building in downtown Wilmington. Derek parked across the street and activated surveillance equipment Mitchell's team had provided. Within minutes, Derek was listening to Tyler's phone calls and watching his computer screen through hacked cameras. What he heard confirmed his worst fears. Tyler wasn't just targeting Brianna. He was part of a larger operation targeting at least 6 military families simultaneously. The Morrison asset is ready for harvest, Tyler was saying to someone. Wife's completely compromised, children are manageable, and I've identified 12 classified documents in the subject's home office. What's the classification level? Mix of secret and top secret. Operational details from his last 3 deployments. Worth 7 figures to our buyers. Derek's vision went red. Tyler wasn't just stealing his wife and children. He was selling national security information that could get Derek's former teammates killed. Derek made a call to Rodriguez. Emergency classification. Tyler Hoffman is selling classified materials. I have proof. Jesus, Derek, how solid is your evidence? Recorded conversations, financial transactions, photograph documents. Package incoming in 10 minutes. Derek uploaded everything to a secure server and transmitted it to Rodriguez. Within an hour, federal agents would be preparing arrest warrants. But Derek wasn't waiting for official justice. At 1,400 hours, Derek positioned himself outside First National Bank. His phone displayed the tracking information from Brianna's device. She was inside, accompanied by Tyler. Through the bank's window, Derek could see them sitting with a loan officer. Derek's enhanced listening equipment picked up fragments of the conversation. Tyler was helping Brianna secure a $300,000 home equity loan against their house. She was signing papers that would give her access to cash Derek had spent 15 years earning. But Derek had anticipated this move. That morning, he'd contacted the bank's security director, a former Marine named Dave Santos whom Derek had served with in Iraq. Dave had flagged Brianna's account for fraud investigation, freezing all major transactions pending Derek's approval. Derek watched through the window as the loan officer excused himself, then returned with a concerned expression. Whatever he said made Tyler's face darken and Brianna look confused. They were escorted to a private office where bank security was waiting. Derek's phone rang. Dave Santos, your wife and her boyfriend just tried to forge your signature on a home equity loan, Dave said. We have them in conference room 3. What do you want me to do? Hold them for 30 minutes, then release them. Tell them there was a computer glitch, but the loan can't be processed today. Suggest they return tomorrow. Roger that. Derek drove home and waited. At 1,530 hours, Brianna's BMW pulled into the driveway. Through his hidden cameras, Derek watched Brianna and Tyler enter his house. They went directly to his office. Tyler pulled out professional photography equipment and began systematically documenting every piece of paper in Derek's desk and filing cabinets. He paid particular attention to a red folder marked classified that Derek had deliberately left visible. What Tyler didn't know was that the folder contained false information, operational details Derek had fabricated to look authentic but would actually endanger no one. Every document was bait in an elaborate trap. Derek's phone vibrated with a message to Amy. Phase 1 complete. Are you and Luke safe? Amy replied, yes. Mr. Ricci explained everything. We're at the cabin. Luke's scared but okay. When can we come home? Soon, sweetheart. I'm fixing everything. At 1800 hours, Derek made his entrance. He unlocked the front door and called out, Brianna? I'm home. Tyler had vanished, but Derek could smell his cologne in the office. Brianna emerged from the kitchen, flustered. Derek, you're early again. Thought I'd surprise you. Where are the kids? Amy's at Jessica's. Luke's still at Tyler's. I was just about to start dinner. Derek smiled warmly. Actually, I was thinking we could go out tonight. Just the two of us. It's been too long since we had a real date. Brianna's relief was visible. That sounds wonderful. Let me change clothes. While Brianna prepared for dinner, Derek activated the final phase of his plan. He sent a single message to Rodriguez. Target has taken the bait. Classified materials have been compromised. Request immediate federal response. Then Derek made the call that would change everything. He dialed a number from his encrypted phone, one connected to a contact he'd never thought he'd need to use. This is Colonel Morrison, Derek said when the line connected. I'm calling to report a breach of national security involving stolen classified materials and foreign intelligence operatives. I'm requesting immediate intervention under the Defense Authorization Act. Location, Colonel? Derek provided Tyler's address. Subject is in possession of 12 top-secret documents relating to ongoing operations in Afghanistan. He's preparing to transmit them to unknown foreign contacts within the next 6 hours. Understood, sir. Federal Response Team dispatched. ETA 23 minutes. Derek hung up and straightened his tie. It was time for dinner with his wife, possibly their last meal together as a married couple. But first, Derek opened his laptop and composed an email he'd been mentally drafting for days. The recipient list included Brianna's parents, her sister, Tyler's ex-wife Linda, the Homeowners Association president, and 12 of Brianna's closest friends. The subject line read, The Truth About My Wife and Tyler Hoffman. Derek attached audio recordings, photographs, bank records, and detailed documentation of the 8-month affair. He included evidence of Tyler's criminal background, his pattern of targeting military wives, and his true identity as Tyler Kozlowski. But Derek's final touch was a masterstroke of psychological warfare. He included Tyler's recorded conversations about targeting military families, his dismissive comments about simple soldiers, and his plans to sell classified information to foreign buyers. Derek scheduled the email to send in exactly 4 hours, plenty of time for him and Brianna to enjoy their last dinner together. As Derek drove to the restaurant, he couldn't help but smile. Tyler had been right about one thing. Military guys were straightforward. They identified threats, planned responses, and executed missions with precision. Tyler Hoffman was about to learn what happened when you threatened a special operations veteran's family. The wolf was no longer hunting. The wolf was ready to kill. Chapter 4. The Perfect Storm. Derek chose Romano's Bistro for dinner, the same restaurant where Tyler had taken Brianna 3 days earlier. The irony wasn't lost on him as he watched his wife study the menu in the same booth where she'd planned his betrayal. "This place is lovely," Brianna said, though Derek caught the slight tremor in her voice. "How did you find it?" "Recommendation from a friend," Derek replied, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. "I thought you might have been here before." Brianna's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "No, I don't think so." "Why would you think that?" Derek smiled. "Just a feeling." At 20:30 hours, Derek's phone buzzed with a message from Rodriguez. Federal agents on scene at target location. Subject in custody. Multiple violations confirmed. Derek excused himself to use the restroom, where he opened a message chain from his surveillance software. The feeds from Tyler's house showed FBI agents in tactical gear securing the premises. Tyler was in handcuffs, screaming about his rights, while agents photographed the classified documents spread across his dining room table. Derek returned to find Brianna staring at her phone with a pale face. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Just," Amy texted. "She's staying at Jessica's tonight." The lie came easily, but Derek noticed Brianna's hands shaking slightly. What Brianna had actually seen was a breaking news alert. Federal agents arrest Wilmington real estate developer on espionage charges. Tyler's mugshot filled her phone screen. Derek paid the check and drove home in silence. Brianna kept checking her phone, her anxiety growing with each failed attempt to reach Tyler. Derek could practically hear her mind racing, trying to understand how her careful plans had collapsed. At home, Derek poured himself a whiskey and sat in his living room chair, the same chair where he'd read Tyler's dismissive texts about simple soldiers. Brianna paced by the window, occasionally glancing toward Tyler's house. "Derek," she said finally, "I need to tell you something." "I'm listening." Brianna sat on the couch, her perfect composure finally cracking. "I've made some terrible mistakes. I've been confused, and I've done things I'm not proud of." Derek sipped his whiskey, saying nothing. "Tyler, he's been helping me with some financial planning, but I think he might have been taking advantage of me, using me somehow." Derek almost laughed at the performance. Even facing catastrophe, Brianna was positioning herself as a victim rather than accepting responsibility. "What kind of advantage?" Derek asked. "I don't know exactly, but earlier today, we went to the bank, and there were problems with a loan application." Tyler seemed really upset, like it was more important to him than it should have been. Derek's phone chimed. The scheduled email had sent. Within minutes, Brianna's phone would explode with calls and messages from family and friends who'd just learned the truth about her 8-month affair. "Derek, I think Tyler might have been lying to me about a lot of things. He told me stories about military marriages, about PTSD, about how dangerous some veterans can become. He said he was protecting me and the kids." "Protecting you from what?" Brianna's phone began ringing. Her sister's name appeared on the screen. Brianna stared at it, then let it go to voicemail. Immediately, it rang again. Her mother this time. "You should answer that," Derek said. Brianna declined the call, but her phone continued buzzing with notifications. Text messages were pouring in. Derek watched Brianna's face as she read the first few. "Is this true? How could you do this to Derek? Mom, we need to talk immediately. I can't believe what I just read. Call me now." Brianna looked up at Derek, tears streaming down her face. "What did you do?" "I told the truth," Derek said calmly. "Every word, every photograph, every recorded conversation. Your parents, your sister, your friends, they all know about Tyler now." Brianna's phone rang again. This time was Amy. Answer it, Derek said. Our daughter deserves to talk to her mother. With trembling hands, Brianna accepted the call. Mom. Amy's voice was clear through the speaker. I just got a call from Grandma. She's crying. She says you've been cheating on Dad. Tell me she's wrong. Derek watched Brianna struggle for words. The carefully constructed lies she'd told Amy and Luke were collapsing. Amy, sweetheart, it's complicated. It's not complicated. Amy's voice was angry now. Either you cheated or you didn't. Either you lied to Luke and me about Dad being dangerous, or you didn't. Where are you? Brianna asked desperately. Somewhere safe. Somewhere Dad made sure we'd be protected when your boyfriend's criminal activities caught up with him. Derek took the phone. Amy, I'll call you back in a few minutes. After hanging up, Derek turned to face his wife. Brianna was sobbing, her perfect makeup ruined, her composure completely shattered. 8 months, Derek said quietly. 8 months you've been destroying our family. Derek, please, let me explain. Explain what? How you let a foreign intelligence operative into our home. How you helped him photograph classified documents. How you poisoned our children's minds against their father. Brianna's sobs intensified. I didn't know. Tyler told me he loved me. He said you were becoming dangerous, that the deployments had changed you. He said he was protecting us. And the money, Brianna? The home equity loan? The bank accounts Tyler tried to access? Was that protection too? Derek's phone rang. Rodriguez. Derek, we need to talk. Tonight. Tyler's singing like a canary, and some of what he's saying involves your wife. How involved? She's named as a co-conspirator in the document theft. Federal prosecutors want to interview her immediately. Derek looked at Brianna, still sobbing on his couch. I'll bring her in. Derek. 1 hour. Federal building, downtown. Derek hung up and studied his wife. Brianna looked up at him with desperate eyes. What happens now? She whispered. Now you face the consequences of your choices, Derek said. Tyler's been arrested on federal espionage charges. You're named as his accomplice. The FBI wants to interview you tonight. Brianna's face went white. But I didn't know. I never meant for any of this to happen. Derek stood and walked to the window. Tyler's house was dark except for the porch light federal agents had left on. Crime scene tape fluttered in the evening breeze. Get dressed, Derek said without turning around. Professional clothes. You're about to meet federal prosecutors. Derek, please. I know I made mistakes, but I'm still your wife. I'm the mother of your children. Doesn't that mean anything? Derek turned to face her, and Brianna saw something in his eyes that made her step back. The warmth was gone, replaced by the cold calculation of a predator who'd identified his prey. You stopped being my wife the moment you brought a foreign operative into our home, Derek said. You stopped being a mother when you turned our children against me to protect your affair. What you are now is a security threat. Brianna stared at him in horror. What are you saying? I'm saying you have exactly 45 minutes to decide whether you want to cooperate with federal investigators or spend the next 20 years in prison for espionage. Derek checked his watch. Your choice, Brianna, but choose quickly. The FBI doesn't like to be kept waiting. As Brianna stumbled upstairs to change clothes, Derek made one final call of the evening. Mitchell Brooks answered on the first ring. Wolf. Status report. Primary target neutralized. Secondary target in custody. Beginning cleanup phase. What do you need? Full background investigation on my wife's family and associates. I want to know if anyone else was involved in this operation. And Mitchell? I want options. What kind of options? Derek looked toward the stairs where Brianna was frantically getting dressed for her encounter with federal law enforcement. The permanent kind. Chapter 5. Federal consequences. The federal building in downtown Wilmington was imposing at night, its granite facade lit by harsh security lighting. Derek walked beside Brianna through the metal detectors, noting how she flinched at every sound. Her earlier composure had completely evaporated, replaced by the hollow-eyed shock of someone whose world had collapsed in a matter of hours. Special Agent Jennifer Walsh met them in the lobby. Tall, blonde, with a kind of sharp intelligence that had fast-tracked her through the FBI's counterintelligence division. Walsh had been briefing Derek throughout the day via secure channels. Mrs. Morrison, Walsh said, extending a hand Brianna was too shaken to accept. I'm Special Agent Walsh. Thank you for coming in voluntarily. Derek caught the subtle emphasis on voluntarily, a reminder that Brianna's cooperation was the only thing standing between her and an arrest warrant. They were escorted to interview room C, a sterile space with gray walls, fluorescent lighting, and recording equipment that made Brianna visibly nervous. Derek was permitted to observe through one-way glass while Walsh and her partner, Agent Torres, began their interrogation. Mrs. Morrison, let's start with how you first met Tyler Hoffman, Walsh said, activating the recording equipment. Through the glass, Derek watched his wife struggle to maintain what remained of her dignity. Brianna's account was largely truthful. Tyler had introduced himself as a neighbor 18 months ago, offered to help with household maintenance while Derek was deployed, gradually became a confidant during Derek's absences. When did your relationship with Mr. Hoffman become romantic in nature? Brianna's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. 8 months ago. Derek was leaving for what Tyler said would be a long deployment. Tyler was understanding, supportive. He said he'd been through a difficult divorce and understood how lonely military wives could feel. Derek's jaw tightened. Tyler's manipulation had been textbook. Identify emotional vulnerabilities, position himself as the solution, gradually escalate intimacy while isolating the target from support systems. Mrs. Morrison, did Mr. Hoffman ever ask you about your husband's work? Yes, but I thought he was just making conversation. He said he admired military families, wanted to understand what Derek did. Agent Torres leaned forward. What specifically did you tell him? Just general things. That Derek worked in special operations, that he deployed to dangerous places, that his missions were classified. Brianna paused. Tyler seemed really interested in Derek's schedule, when he'd be home, when he'd be deployed. Did you ever provide Mr. Hoffman with access to your home when your husband was absent? Brianna's face reddened. Yes, he had a key. I thought we were going to build a life together. Derek closed his eyes. His wife had given a foreign operative unrestricted access to their home for 8 months. Mrs. Morrison, we need to discuss the documents found in Mr. Hoffman's possession, Walsh said, sliding a folder across the table. These are classified materials that originated from your husband's home office. Can you explain how Mr. Hoffman might have obtained them? Brianna opened the folder and immediately went pale. The photographs showed Derek's desk, his filing cabinets, classified folders spread across Tyler's dining room table. I don't know, Brianna whispered. I never helped him take anything. I wouldn't even know what was important. But you did provide him with access to your husband's office. He said he was looking for documents related to our mortgage. Tyler was helping me refinance the house as a surprise for Derek. Agent Torres consulted his notes. Mrs. Morrison, bank records show that you attempted to secure a $300,000 home equity loan this afternoon. The loan application lists Tyler Hoffman as a co-borrower and beneficiary. Can you explain this? Derek watched Brianna's world collapse further. She'd been so focused on the romantic fantasy that she'd completely missed the financial manipulation. Tyler said it was just paperwork, she said weakly. He said he needed to be listed for legal reasons, but the money would go into our account. Actually, Mrs. Morrison, the account listed for the loan proceeds belongs to Hoffman Properties, Mr. Hoffman's business. You would have signed over $300,000 in equity to a man you'd known for 18 months. Derek could see Brianna processing this information, understanding for the first time how completely she'd been manipulated. Tyler had never loved her. She'd been a mark from the beginning. The interview continued for 2 hours. Walsh and Torres methodically documented Brianna's relationship with Tyler, her provision of access to Derek's home and office, her attempts to isolate Derek from the children by spreading Tyler's lies about PTSD and dangerous veterans. Finally, Walsh leaned back in her chair. Mrs. Morrison, based on your cooperation tonight and your apparent lack of knowledge regarding Mr. Hoffman's true activities, we're prepared to offer you a deal. Derek straightened, focusing intently on the conversation. You'll testify fully and truthfully against Tyler Hoffman in federal court. You'll submit to polygraph examinations to verify your testimony. You'll provide complete access to all financial records, communications, and any other materials we request. And if I do that, We'll recommend against federal charges being filed against you. However, this doesn't protect you from potential civil liability or other consequences of your actions. Derek smiled grimly. Walsh was keeping her word. No federal charges, but the door was wide open for Derek to pursue other remedies. At 0130 hours, Derek drove exhausted Brianna home through empty streets. She stared out the passenger window, tears occasionally sliding down her cheeks. "What happens to us now?" she asked as Derek pulled into their driveway. "There is no us, Brianna," Derek said calmly. "There's you, and there's the legal process you're about to go through." Derek's phone buzzed with a message from Mitchell Brooks. Phase 2 assets in position. Awaiting authorization. "Derek, I know I made terrible mistakes, but I'm still your wife. We can work through this. We can rebuild." Derek turned to face her with the same cold expression she'd seen earlier. "You don't understand, do you? This isn't about forgiveness or rebuilding. This is about consequences." Derek pulled out his phone and opened the text messages he'd intercepted between Brianna and Tyler over the past 8 months. He selected one from 3 weeks earlier and read it aloud. "Derek seems suspicious lately. Should we accelerate the timeline?" "That's you, Brianna." "Timeline for what?" Brianna said nothing. Derek scrolled to Tyler's response. "For getting you and the kids away from him permanently. I'm worried he might become violent if he finds out about us. Military guys with PTSD can snap without warning." "I thought he was protecting us," Brianna whispered. "Here's your response. I've been planting doubts about Derek with Amy and Luke. They're starting to see him differently. Maybe we should move faster." Derek put his phone away. "You actively worked to turn our children against me, Brianna. You helped a foreign operative steal classified materials that could get American soldiers killed. You attempted to steal $300,000 from our family." Derek got out of the truck and walked around to open Brianna's door, a gesture of mock courtesy that somehow made his words more terrifying. "Tomorrow morning, you'll pack your belongings and leave this house. You'll move in with your parents while your lawyer handles the divorce proceedings. You'll have supervised visitation with Amy and Luke until a court determines whether you're fit to be around them unsupervised. Derek, please. You'll discover that your credit cards have been canceled, your access to our bank accounts has been revoked, and your car loan has been called due for payment in full." Brianna stared at him in shock. "You can't do that." "I've done it. I've also filed a civil lawsuit against you for $2.3 million. The value of the classified information Tyler attempted to sell, plus damages for alienation of affection regarding our children." Derek started walking toward the house. "Oh, and Brianna? Check your phone." Brianna pulled out her device and saw 17 missed calls from her mother, 9 from her sister, and dozens of text messages from friends and neighbors who'd received Derek's email about her affair. "Your sister's coming to pick you up in an hour," Derek said. "I suggest you use the time to pack efficiently." As Derek walked into his house now, he could hear Brianna sobbing in the driveway. But Derek felt nothing. The woman crying behind him had stopped being his wife the moment she'd chosen Tyler Hoffman over her family. Derek's phone rang. "Amy, Dad, is it over?" "The federal part is over, sweetheart. Tyler's in jail, and he's going to stay there for a very long time." "What about Mom?" Derek looked out the window at Brianna, still standing by the truck, her perfect life shattered beyond repair. "Your mother's going to learn that actions have consequences," Derek said. "Some lessons are harder than others." Chapter 6, The Reckoning. Derek stood in his kitchen at 0600 hours, coffee in hand, watching Brianna's sister Rachel load suitcases into her Suburban. Brianna sat in the passenger seat, staring at the house she was leaving forever. Even from a distance, Derek could see the defeat in her posture, shoulders slumped, head down, the confident woman he'd married reduced to a shell. The doorbell rang. Derek opened it to find a process server holding official documents. "Derek Morrison?" "That's me." "Service a process for Brianna Morrison. Divorce petition, child custody filing, and civil lawsuit. She's been notified to expect these." Derek signed for the papers and walked them out to Rachel's SUV. He tapped on the passenger window, and Brianna reluctantly rolled it down. "Your copies," Derek said, handing her the legal documents. "Court date is next Friday." Brianna took the papers with shaking hands. Derek, I know you hate me, but please don't punish the children for my mistakes. Derek studied her face. Even now, facing complete ruin, Brianna was trying to manipulate him. The psychologist's report he'd commissioned had identified classic narcissistic patterns. Everything was always someone else's fault. Every consequence was unfair persecution. The children will be fine, Derek said. They'll live with their father, who never betrayed them. Rachel started the engine. Derek stepped back and watched the SUV pull away, taking Brianna out of his life forever. Derek's phone rang. Mitchell Brooks. Wolf, we've got developments. Tyler's lawyer is pushing for a plea deal. He wants to trade information about his larger network for reduced charges. What kind of information? Names, operational methods, other targets. Apparently, Tyler was part of a 12-man cell targeting military families across the eastern seaboard. Your wife wasn't his first victim. She was number 6. Derek felt rage building in his chest. How many families? 18 confirmed, probably more. Tyler's been doing this for 4 years, always targeting special operations personnel or intelligence officers. The foreign buyers were paying premium prices for classified material. Where's Tyler now? Federal Detention Center, protective custody. His lawyer's scared. Apparently, Tyler owes money to some serious people who funded his operations. If his network thinks he's cooperating, he's a dead man. Derek smiled grimly. Tyler's criminal associates would solve the problem of his testimony more efficiently than any legal maneuvering. Mitchell, I need you to handle the civil side of this operation. What do you have in mind? Brianna's parents co-signed a mortgage on our house. Her sister Rachel guaranteed a loan for Brianna's BMW. I want them to understand the financial consequences of their daughter's choices. You want to bankrupt the entire family? I want them to feel a fraction of what military families felt when Tyler sold their classified information to foreign buyers. Derek provided Mitchell with account numbers, loan documentation, and legal vulnerabilities he'd identified in the Novak family's finances. Within 72 hours, they would face foreclosure notices, loan recalls, and civil lawsuits that would destroy their comfortable middle-class lifestyle. After ending the call, Derek drove to a secure location in rural Delaware where Tony Ricci was maintaining the safe house. Amy and Luke were waiting in the living room, both looking anxious but safe. Dad! Luke ran to him immediately. At 14, he still had the uncomplicated loyalty of childhood, despite Brianna's attempts to poison him against Derek. Amy was more reserved, studying Derek's face. Is Mom okay? Your mother is alive and unharmed, Derek said carefully. She's staying with your Aunt Rachel while we sort out the legal situation. Are you getting divorced? Derek sat on the couch between his children. They deserved honesty, but age-appropriate honesty. Yes, your mother made choices that destroyed our marriage. She had a relationship with Tyler Hoffman that went on for 8 months. During that time, she helped him steal important documents from our house. Luke looked confused. Why would Mom do that? Because Tyler convinced her that I was dangerous, that our family would be better off without me. He lied to her about a lot of things, and she believed him. Amy's eyes hardened. She lied to us too. She told us you were having problems because of the war, that we should be careful around you. Derek felt a flash of anger at Brianna's manipulation of their children, but he kept his voice calm. I'm not perfect, and military life is hard on families. But I never would have hurt you or your mother. What happens now? Amy asked. Now we rebuild our family. Just the 3 of us. Luke looked worried. Will we ever see Mom again? Derek had been dreading this question. In his heart, he wanted to say no. Brianna had forfeited her right to parenthood when she'd used the children as weapons against their father. But courts rarely agreed with such black-and-white thinking. There will probably be supervised visits until a judge decides what's best for you, Derek said. But you'll live with me. Our home, our rules, our family. Amy nodded approvingly, but Luke still looked uncertain. Derek understood. Luke was younger, his memories of Brianna's manipulation less clear than Amy's. Derek's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Rodriguez, Tyler's network rolling up faster than expected. Federal prosecutors want to meet with you tomorrow. Bring your lawyer. That evening, Derek sat in his home office reviewing financial documents Mitchell's team had compiled. Brianna's betrayal would cost her far more than just their marriage. The civil lawsuit would claim their house, her inheritance money, and her family's assets. The divorce settlement would leave her with minimal support and restricted access to the children. But Derek's masterpiece was the reputational destruction. The email he'd sent to Brianna's social circle had been forwarded dozens of times. Her name was now associated with adultery, federal espionage investigations, and the betrayal of a military family. In their conservative community, she'd become a pariah overnight. Derek's laptop chimed with a video call from Rodriguez. "Derek, we need to discuss Tyler's plea negotiations. He's offering information about 12 other military wives currently involved with his associates." 12. The network is bigger than we thought. Tyler was just one cell. His handler is someone called the Architect, former Russian intelligence, now freelance. He's been running this operation for 6 years. Derek leaned back in his chair. What does Tyler want? Witness protection, reduced sentence, relocation after his testimony. Standard deal for cooperating witnesses. What does he know about ongoing operations? Everything. Names, targets, methods, financial networks. He can roll up the entire East Coast operation. Derek considered this. Tyler's information could protect dozens of military families from the manipulation Brianna had experienced. But it would also mean Tyler might escape the full consequences of his crimes. "Rodriguez, I need to ask you something. Off the record." "Go ahead." "If Tyler were to suffer an accident in federal custody, how hard would prosecutors look for alternative explanations?" Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. "Derek, don't even think about it. The case against his network is too important to risk with vigilante justice." "I'm not talking about vigilante justice. I'm talking about criminal associates who don't want Tyler cooperating with federal prosecutors." "Derek, Tyler targeted 18 military families. He sold classified information that could have gotten American soldiers killed. He manipulated my wife into betraying her own children. Some crimes deserve ultimate consequences." Derek ended the call and made a different phone number, one that wasn't monitored by federal agencies. "It's Morrison," he said when the line connected. "I need to discuss a problem that requires permanent solution." "What kind of problem?" "The kind that involves threats to American military families and national security. The kind that courts might not handle appropriately." Derek provided Tyler's location, his protective custody arrangements, and the scheduled court appearances. Within 48 hours, Tyler Hoffman would face consequences that no plea deal could mitigate. As Derek prepared for bed in his empty house, he felt no guilt about the arrangements he'd made. Tyler had declared war on American military families. Wars at casualties. Tomorrow, Derek would attend the federal prosecutor's meeting and provide any assistance necessary to protect other military families from Tyler's network. Tonight, Derek slept peacefully for the first time in months. The wolf had protected his pack, eliminated the threat, and restored order to his territory. Justice, Derek had learned, sometimes required methods that courts couldn't provide. Chapter 7. Blood in the Water. Derek stood in the federal courthouse lobby at 0800 hours, wearing his dress blue uniform decorated with 15 years of combat ribbons. The psychological impact was intentional. Prosecutors, defense attorneys, and media representatives would see him as the embodiment of American military service betrayed by domestic enemies. U.S. Attorney Margaret Collins greeted Derek personally, a rare gesture that indicated the importance federal prosecutors placed on his cooperation. At 53, Collins had built her reputation prosecuting national security cases and rarely handled anything less than major federal crimes. "Colonel Morrison, thank you for your service and your cooperation in this investigation," Collins said, shaking Derek's hand with genuine respect. "Your evidence has been instrumental in dismantling what we believe to be the largest espionage network targeting military families in modern American history." They walked through security to a conference room where Derek was introduced to the full prosecution team. 6 attorneys, 3 FBI agents, 2 NSA liaisons, and a representative from military intelligence. The scope of the investigation had expanded far beyond Tyler Hoffman. "Colonel, we need to discuss some developments that occurred overnight," Collins said, her expression grave. Derek maintained perfect composure, though he suspected what was coming. Agent Walsh opened a folder. At approximately 0347 hours this morning, Tyler Hoffman was found dead in his cell at the Federal Detention Center. Initial examination suggests cardiac arrest, but we're conducting a full investigation. Derek's expression showed appropriate surprise and concern. That's unfortunate. I assume this complicates your case against his network. Actually, it doesn't, Collins said. Before his death, Tyler provided us with extensive information about his organization. More importantly, we've identified the architect, the man running the entire operation. Collins slid a photograph across the table. Derek studied the face, a thin man in his 50s with cold gray eyes and Slavic features. Viktor Petrov, former GRU intelligence officer. He's been operating in the United States since 2018, specifically targeting military communities. Tyler's network was just one of 4 cells Petrov has been running simultaneously. Agent Walsh leaned forward. Colonel, we need to discuss the possibility that you and your family might still be targets. Petrov doesn't like loose ends, and your cooperation with this investigation makes you a threat to his remaining operations. Derek considered this. What kind of protection are you offering? Relocation, new identities, federal marshals protection for you and your children. It would be temporary, just until we can locate and arrest Petrov. That won't be necessary, Derek said calmly. Collins looked surprised. Colonel, we're talking about a highly trained foreign intelligence operative with a network of assets and significant financial resources. The threat is real. Derek smiled with the confidence of a man who'd spent 15 years hunting more dangerous prey than Viktor Petrov. Ma'am, with respect, I'm not the one who should be afraid. The meeting continued for 3 hours. Derek provided detailed testimony about Tyler's infiltration of his family, Brianna's cooperation with the intelligence operation, and the classified materials that had been compromised. His testimony would be crucial in prosecuting any remaining network members. But Derek's mind was already moving beyond legal proceedings. Viktor Petrov had made the fatal error of targeting Derek's family. The Russian would learn the difference between manipulating vulnerable military wives and confronting a special operations veteran who decided to hunt. After the meeting, Derek drove directly to a secure location in Baltimore, where Mitchell Brooks maintained his operational headquarters. The building looked like a typical corporate office, but Derek knew it housed one of the most sophisticated private intelligence operations on the East Coast. Mitchell greeted Derek in a conference room equipped with electronic countermeasures and secure communications equipment. Also present were 3 men Derek recognized as former special operations personnel, the kind of professionals who transitioned from military service to more profitable applications of their skills. Wolf, Mitchell said, we've been tracking your Russian friend since his name surfaced in the federal investigation. He's not as invisible as he thinks. Derek studied the surveillance photographs spread across the table. Viktor Petrov had been living in Richmond, Virginia, operating a consulting firm that served as cover for his intelligence activities. More interesting were the photographs of his associates, 6 men who appear to be former Eastern European military or intelligence personnel. What's his current status? Derek asked. Nervous. Tyler's death has him spooked, and he knows federal agents are closing in. Our sources indicate he's planning to extract his remaining assets and disappear within 72 hours. Derek examined blueprints of Petrov's office building and residential compound. The Russian had chosen his locations well: multiple escape routes, excellent sight lines, sophisticated security systems. Mitchell, I need to send a message that goes beyond what courts can deliver. What kind of message? Derek looked up from the photographs. The kind that ensures no foreign operative ever targets American military families again. Mitchell nodded slowly. What's the timeline? Tonight, before Petrov can escape or eliminate witnesses. Derek spent the afternoon preparing equipment and reviewing intelligence. Petrov's compound in Richmond was isolated, protected by electronic surveillance and armed personnel. A direct assault would be costly and might allow the target to escape. But Derek had learned patience during his years hunting insurgents in Afghanistan. Sometimes the best way to kill a target was to let the target come to you. Derek made a single phone call to a number that would be traced to Viktor Petrov's network within hours. "This is Colonel Derek Morrison," he said when the line connected. "I have information Viktor Petrov needs to hear. Information about Tyler Hoffman's cooperation with federal investigators and what I told them about remaining network assets." Derek provided an address, an abandoned warehouse in an industrial area of Richmond where he'd conducted business with Mitchell's team before. The location was isolated, easily surveilled, with multiple approach routes that could be monitored. "Tell Petrov I'll be there at 2,200 hours. Come alone, or don't come at all." Derek hung up, knowing that Petrov would never come alone, but would be unable to resist the opportunity to eliminate the primary threat to his operation. At 1,900 hours, Derek and Mitchell's team took positions around the warehouse. Derek carried the weapons and equipment that had kept him alive through 5 combat deployments: M4 carbine, sidearm, night vision equipment, and enough explosives to level the building if necessary. At 2,130 hours, electronic surveillance detected 3 vehicles approaching the warehouse from different directions. Derek smiled grimly. Petrov was bringing at least 12 men to kill 1 American soldier. The Russian had no idea who he was hunting. Derek activated his communication system. "Wolf to all stations. Hostiles inbound. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. No survivors." Derek had spent 15 years protecting American military families from foreign enemies. Tonight, he would ensure that Viktor Petrov's network could never threaten another family. The wolf was hunting again, and this time, the prey would never see him coming. Chapter 8. The Kill. Derek moved through the warehouse with the fluid precision of a predator in his element. Night vision equipment turned the darkness into green-tinted clarity, revealing every shadow, every potential angle of attack. Behind him, Mitchell's team had taken overwatch positions on the warehouse's upper level, providing covering fire for whatever came next. Through his earpiece, Derek heard the soft updates from his team. Contact 1. 4 hostiles, east entrance. Contact 2. 3 hostiles, north approach. Contact 3. 5 hostiles, west perimeter. Target Petrov confirmed. Derek smiled coldly. 12 men against 4. Under normal circumstances, those odds would favor the larger force. But these weren't normal circumstances. The men outside were intelligence operatives and hired muscle, accustomed to intimidation and assassination. Derek and his team were combat veterans who'd spent years hunting terrorists in their own territory. Derek keyed his microphone. "Wolf to all stations. Initiate." The warehouse erupted in controlled violence. Mitchell's team engaged targets with precision rifle fire, while Derek moved toward the primary objective, Viktor Petrov himself. The Russian had made his first tactical error by entering the warehouse personally, driven by the arrogance that had sustained his network for 6 years. Derek heard Petrov's voice echoing through the warehouse, accented English issuing orders to his remaining men. The Russian was trying to establish fields of fire and coordinate an assault on Derek's position. But Petrov was thinking like an intelligence operative, not a special operations veteran. Derek activated the warehouse's automated fire suppression system, flooding the building with chemical retardant that reduced visibility and made breathing difficult for anyone without proper equipment. Through his sealed mask and night vision, Derek could see clearly while Petrov's men stumbled blindly through toxic fog. 2 of Petrov's operatives rounded a corner directly into Derek's position. The first man died instantly from a suppressed rifle shot to the head. The second managed to raise his weapon before Derek's knife opened his throat. Neither man had time to alert their teammates. Derek moved deeper into the warehouse, following the sound of Petrov's voice. The Russian was shouting instructions to his remaining men, unaware that his numerical advantage was disappearing with each minute. Through his earpiece, Derek heard Mitchell's situation reports. Contact 1 neutralized. 4 hostiles down. Contact 2 secured. 3 hostiles eliminated. Contact 3 in progress. 2 hostiles remaining plus primary target. Derek found Petrov in the warehouse's administrative office, crouched behind a desk with two surviving operatives. The Russian was talking frantically on a satellite phone, probably calling for extraction or additional support. Derek grenaded the office door, using the explosion to mask his entry. In the chaos that followed, he eliminated both operatives with precise headshots before turning his attention to the primary target. Viktor Petrov lay on his back, wounded but alive, staring up at Derek with a mixture of fear and professional respect. Blood seeped from shrapnel wounds, but the Russian's injuries weren't immediately fatal. "Colonel Morrison," Petrov said in heavily accented English, "I underestimated you." Derek removed his helmet and night vision equipment, wanting Petrov to see his face clearly. "You targeted my family. That was your mistake. Your wife was a willing participant. Your children believed everything we told them about dangerous military father." Derek's expression didn't change, but something cold settled in his eyes. "Tell me about the other families you've destroyed." Petrov smiled weakly. 18 successful operations. Millions of dollars in classified information sold to buyers in China, Russia, Iran. Your family was just business, nothing personal. It became personal when you involved my children. Derek pulled out his sidearm and checked the chamber. "How many more operatives does your network have? You think killing me solves problem? There are others. More networks, more targets. Military families will always be vulnerable because they trust too easily. Maybe, but they won't be vulnerable to you." Derek shot Petrov twice in the chest, then once in the head. The Russian died instantly, his satellite phone still clutched in his hand. Derek searched the office, recovering encrypted communication devices, financial records, and operational plans that would help federal investigators dismantle any remaining network assets. But his primary objective was complete. Viktor Petrov would never threaten another American family. Mitchell's voice crackled through the earpiece. "Wolf, area secure. All hostiles neutralized. We need to exfiltrate in 15 minutes." Derek spent 10 minutes rigging the warehouse with incendiary devices that would destroy any forensic evidence of their presence. When the building burned, investigators would find the bodies of foreign operatives who died in a confrontation with each other, a common occurrence when criminal organizations imploded. As Derek and Mitchell's team withdrew from the area, Derek felt the satisfaction of a mission completed successfully. Viktor Petrov's network was broken, Tyler Hoffman was dead, and any remaining foreign operatives would think twice before targeting American military families. But Derek's work wasn't finished. He still had domestic enemies to address. Derek's phone buzzed with a message from Rodriguez. "Federal prosecutors want to debrief you tomorrow. Tyler's death is being investigated as a homicide." Derek typed back, "Available at 0900. Full cooperation." Derek knew the federal investigation into Tyler's death would find nothing connecting him to the incident. Tyler had died of an apparent heart attack brought on by a previously undiagnosed cardiac condition, a condition that sophisticated toxins could trigger while leaving no detectable trace. More importantly, Tyler's death had eliminated a security risk while sending a clear message to any remaining network operatives. Some betrayals carried ultimate consequences. As Derek drove back to Delaware, he thought about the conversation he'd have with Amy and Luke tomorrow. His children deserved to know that the threat to their family had been permanently eliminated. They also needed to understand that their father had done whatever was necessary to protect them. Derek's phone rang. "Amy, Dad, I saw the news about that Russian man who was arrested. The reporter said he was connected to Tyler. Where did you see this?" "Online. It said federal agents raided his office in Richmond and found evidence of espionage against military families." Derek smiled. The cover story was already taking shape in the media. A successful federal investigation that had dismantled a foreign intelligence network. No mention of the warehouse incident or the 12 bodies that would never be found. "The important thing is that the threat to our family is over," Derek said. "You and Luke are safe now. What about Mom?" Derek considered his answer carefully. Brianna's betrayal had been devastating, but she'd been a victim of manipulation as much as a willing participant. She would face legal consequences and social ostracism, but she didn't deserve death. Your mother will face the consequences of her choices through the court system. That's how it should be. Do you think she really loved Tyler? Or was she just being used? Derek thought about the recorded conversations he'd intercepted, the evidence of Brianna's manipulation and Tyler's calculated seduction. The truth was complicated. Brianna had been genuinely attracted to Tyler's attention and lifestyle, but Tyler had never felt anything genuine for her. I think your mother was lonely and made poor decisions that Tyler exploited for his own purposes, Derek said finally. She's not evil, Amy. She's just weak. Are you going to forgive her? Derek stared through the windshield at the highway, stretching toward home. Forgiveness was a luxury he couldn't afford. Not for Brianna, not for Tyler, not for anyone who'd threatened his family. Forgiveness isn't always possible, Derek said. Sometimes the best you can do is move forward and protect the people who matter most. Derek would protect Amy and Luke for the rest of his life. He would ensure they had every opportunity to build successful, secure futures. He would teach them to be strong, to make good decisions, to trust carefully. But he would never forgive the betrayal that had nearly destroyed their family. Some wounds were too deep, some violations too fundamental. The wolf protected his pack. Everything else was secondary. Chapter 9. The New Pack. 3 months later, Derek stood in the kitchen of his renovated home, watching Amy and Luke eat breakfast before school. The house felt different now, warmer, more secure, with the toxic presence of betrayal finally eliminated. Security upgrades had turned their home into a fortress that could withstand any future threats. Amy looked up from her cereal. Dad, I got accepted to Georgetown. Early admission to their international relations program. Derek felt genuine pride swell in his chest. That's outstanding, sweetheart. Full scholarship, academic and ROTC. They want me for their officer candidate program. Derek nodded approvingly. Amy had inherited his strategic mind and leadership potential. She would make an excellent officer, assuming she chose that path. Luke was reading from his tablet. Dad, there's an article here about Mom's trial. It says she got probation and community service. Derek had followed Brianna's legal proceedings with professional interest. She'd pleaded guilty to minor charges related to her cooperation with Tyler's operation, received a suspended sentence, and been ordered to perform 500 hours of community service. The judge had been lenient, recognizing her status as a victim of manipulation. How do you feel about that? Derek asked Luke. I guess it's fair. She didn't really know what Tyler was doing. Luke paused. Do you think we'll ever see her again? Derek considered his answer carefully. 3 months of therapy had helped both children process their mother's betrayal and their father's necessary response. Amy had adapted quickly, her analytical mind accepting the harsh realities of adult consequences. Luke remained more conflicted, struggling with loyalty to a mother who'd failed to protect him. That's your choice to make when you're 18, Derek said. Right now, you're still healing from what she put you through. Derek's phone buzzed with a message from Rodriguez. Court-martial proceedings for the rest of Petrov's network concluded. 12 operatives convicted. Network officially dismantled. Mission complete. Derek deleted the message and poured another cup of coffee. The federal investigation had been remarkably successful, rolling up foreign intelligence operatives across 3 states. The cover story had held perfectly. Viktor Petrov and his associates had died in an internal power struggle, their bodies discovered in a burned warehouse where they'd apparently killed each other. No one questioned the convenient elimination of a foreign espionage network that had posed significant threats to national security. Derek's doorbell rang. Through the security monitor, he saw a familiar figure, his former commanding officer, Colonel Patricia Hayes, now assigned to Pentagon operations. Derek opened the door to find Hayes in dress uniform, her expression unreadable. Derek, may I come in? Derek led Hayes to his office and closed the door. She refused his offer of coffee and sat across from his desk with military formality. Derek, I'm here on behalf of the Secretary of Defense. Your actions over the past 3 months have not gone unnoticed. Derek maintained neutral expression. I'm not sure what you mean, ma'am. Hayes smiled grimly. The Petrov network represented a significant threat to military families across the eastern seaboard. Their elimination was convenient for national security interests. I understand federal prosecutors handled that investigation very effectively. Indeed, almost too effectively. Hayes leaned forward. Derek, the Pentagon has a proposition for you. Derek waited. We're forming a new unit within Special Operations Command. Domestic threat assessment and elimination. The kind of threats that traditional law enforcement can't always handle appropriately. What kind of threats? Foreign intelligence operations targeting military personnel. Domestic terrorists planning attacks on military installations. Criminal organizations that pose national security risks. Hayes paused. The kind of targets that require unconventional solutions. Derek understood immediately. The Pentagon wanted to weaponize his skills against enemies who operated within legal gray areas, threats that courts couldn't adequately address. What will my role be? Team leader. Handpick your own operators. Unlimited resources. Operations that officially never happened. Derek considered the offer. For 15 years, he'd operated within legal and military constraints that sometimes prevented optimal solutions. This new position would remove those limitations. I have conditions, Derek said. Name them. My children's security is non-negotiable. Any threat to Amy or Luke results in immediate and permanent elimination. Hayes nodded. Understood. I choose my own targets and methods. No oversight from people who've never conducted actual operations. Agreed. And I want Mitchell Brooks and his team officially transferred to my command. They've proven their effectiveness. Hayes stood and extended her hand. Welcome to the Shadow Regiment, Colonel Morrison. Your first briefing is Monday. After Hayes left, Derek sat in his office contemplating this new phase of his career. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed his family had ultimately led to opportunities he'd never imagined. He would now hunt domestic enemies with the full backing of the Pentagon, protecting military families from threats they'd never see coming. Derek's phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Heard about your new assignment. Congratulations. Some of us remember what you did to protect your family. Respect. Ghost. Derek smiled. Word was already spreading through the special operations community about his recruitment to the Shadow Regiment. Former teammates who'd heard whispers about Tyler Hoffman's death and Viktor Petrov's elimination understood the message Derek had sent. Military families were under his protection now. Foreign operatives, domestic terrorists, and criminal organizations that threatened American service members would face consequences that courts couldn't deliver. That evening, Derek grilled steaks while Amy and Luke did homework at the patio table. The spring air carried the scent of cherry blossoms from trees Derek had planted after Brianna's departure, new growth replacing what had been corrupted. Dad, Luke said, looking up from his math homework, do you ever miss Mom? Derek considered the question honestly. I miss the woman I thought she was. I don't miss the person she actually turned out to be. Amy set down her pen. Do you think you'll ever get married again? Maybe someday. If I find someone who values loyalty as much as I do. Derek's phone buzzed with a message from Mitchell. Shadow Regiment headquarters completed. Ready for your inspection tomorrow. Derek looked at his children. Amy focused on college applications. Luke working through algebra problems. Both of them safe and thriving despite the trauma they'd endured. They'd emerged stronger from their mother's betrayal, more resilient and realistic about human nature. Kids, Derek said, I want you to know that no matter what happens in the future, you'll always be my priority. Anyone who threatens this family will face consequences they can't imagine. Amy met his eyes with understanding. She'd inherited his protective instincts and analytical mind. We know, Dad, and we'll never give you reason to question our loyalty. Luke nodded earnestly. This is our pact now, the three of us. Derek smiled with genuine warmth. His children understood what Brianna had never grasped. That loyalty was earned through consistency, protected through strength, and maintained through absolute commitment to family. The wolf had rebuilt his pack. Now he would protect all military families with the same deadly efficiency he'd used to eliminate the threats to his own. Some men forgave betrayal and moved on. Derek Morrison hunted betrayers until they stopped breathing. The difference had kept his family alive and would now keep America's military families safe from enemies they'd never see coming. In the end, the wolf always protected the pack. Everything else was just prey. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there. Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Hidden Cracks. Vincent Hargrove surveyed his custom-built home from the driveway, briefcase in hand. 5,000 square feet of pristine architecture nestled in Baltimore's most exclusive neighborhood, a testament to 15 years of ruthless dominance in medical tech development. At 42, Vincent had built his company, Nexus Bionics, from nothing into a billion-dollar enterprise specializing in cutting-edge prosthetics and implantable medical devices. "Daddy!" 10-year-old Molly burst through the front door, her auburn hair bouncing as she ran toward him. Vincent's stern expression softened as he caught her. "Careful, princess. You're getting bigger," he said, noticing how much heavier she felt in his arms. His brow furrowed slightly. She'd been gaining weight steadily over the past few months despite no significant changes to her diet or activity. "I made honor roll again," Molly announced proudly. "That's my girl." He set her down, ruffling her hair. "Where's your mother?" As if summoned, Dominique Hargrove appeared in the doorway. At 38, she remained strikingly beautiful, tall, blonde, impeccably dressed in designer clothes that showcased her fitness-sculpted physique. "You're home early," she observed, her voice carrying a hint of surprise rather than welcome. Vincent checked his watch. Board meeting ended ahead of schedule. "Where's Mrs. Patterson?" Their housekeeper usually greeted him at this hour. "I gave her the afternoon off." Dominique's hand went to her neck, adjusting the high collar of her blouse, a nervous tic Vincent had noticed developing recently. Inside, Vincent loosened his tie and scrolled through work emails while Dominique prepared dinner with practiced efficiency. 15 years of marriage had developed a comfortable rhythm between them, though lately, Vincent had sensed something different. Small changes in routine. Late-night text messages Dominique claimed were from her charity committee. Weekend brunches that ran suspiciously long. Dinner conversation revolved around Molly's school achievements, but Vincent couldn't help noticing how his daughter picked at her food despite claiming hunger earlier. "Everything okay, Molly?" he asked, studying her face. "My stomach hurts sometimes," she admitted quietly. "Since when?" Vincent's voice sharpened with concern. "It's just occasional childhood discomfort," Dominique interjected quickly. "Remember how Dr. Fuller said kids her age go through growth spurts?" Vincent looked between them, his instinct for detecting deception, honed through years of corporate negotiations, prickling uncomfortably. "If it persists, we're getting a second opinion." Later that night, Vincent stood at his bedroom window, watching the moonlight reflect off the swimming pool. Behind him, Dominique emerged from the bathroom in silk pajamas, her phone clutched in her hand. "The Westerlys invited us to their fundraiser next weekend," she said, not meeting his eyes. Vincent turned. "Preston Westerly from the hospital board? His wife Adrienne is on the Children's Foundation committee with me." "Convenient," Vincent remarked coldly. Dominique's head snapped up. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing." Vincent watched her face carefully. "Just thinking how entwined our social and professional circles have become." That night, Vincent awoke at 2:17 a.m. to find Dominique's side of the bed empty. Following the soft glow of light downstairs, he paused at the kitchen entrance, listening to his wife's hushed phone conversation. "I can't talk long." "No, he doesn't suspect anything. I know it's risky, but what choice do we have? She's getting worse. I understand the consequences." Vincent retreated silently up the stairs, his mind already calculating possibilities. Whatever Dominique was hiding involved Molly. And if there was one thing Vincent Hargrove never tolerated, it was threats to what belonged to him. Chapter 2. Growing Concerns. By early March, Molly's weight gain had become impossible to ignore. Her previously athletic frame had grown considerably rounder, her once energetic demeanor replaced by lethargy and frequent complaints of stomach pain. "I've scheduled an appointment with Dr. Witten," Vincent announced over breakfast, watching Dominique's reaction carefully. "Pediatric gastroenterologist?" she asked too quickly. "You know who he is?" Vincent's eyes narrowed. "I research specialist," after Molly mentioned her stomach issues. Dominique stammered. "But Dr. Fuller already." "Fuller's a general pediatrician. Witten's the best in his field." Vincent cut her off. "And I want the best for my daughter." That evening, Vincent accessed Dominique's laptop while she was at her book club, another recent addition to her schedule. Her browser history revealed deleted sections, but Vincent wasn't CEO of a tech company for nothing. Within minutes, he'd recovered fragments of searches related to childhood appetite stimulants, weight gain medications, and side effects of prednisone in children. More troubling was a pattern of communications with Preston Westerly that extended beyond charity work. Emails with vague references to the situation and continuing treatment, alongside meeting arrangements at odd hours. Vincent's investigation was interrupted by the garage door opening. He restored the computer to its previous state and retreated to his home office, where he placed a call to Ronan Sullivan, his company's head of security and former military intelligence officer. "Sullivan, I need discreet surveillance on my wife and comprehensive background on Preston Westerly. Personal, professional, everything. And I need the name of the best private investigator in the city." "Something serious, boss?" Sullivan asked, the only person who could pose such a question to Vincent without repercussion. "That depends on what you find." 2 days later, Vincent sat across from Dr. Witten as the specialist examined Molly's test results with growing concern. "Mr. Hargrove, these hormone levels are extremely unusual for a child Molly's age," Witten explained, pointing to highlighted numbers. "She's showing elevated cortisol, abnormal thyroid function, and several markers that suggest she's been exposed to multiple medications typically prescribed for adults." "Meaning?" Vincent's voice was dangerously quiet. "Someone may be deliberately administering medications, causing these symptoms. Has Molly been taking any supplements? Anything given to her regularly?" Vincent thought of the special vitamin smoothies Dominique had started making for Molly each morning. "Possibly. We need to run additional tests. And frankly, this may require involving authorities if—" "Not yet," Vincent interrupted, his mind racing. "Document everything, but I need time to handle this, privately." That evening, Vincent watched through the kitchen doorway as Dominique prepared Molly's bedtime snack, a special yogurt parfait she claimed helped with sleep. When Dominique stepped away to answer the door for a package delivery, Vincent quickly swapped the parfait with an identical one he'd prepared earlier, taking the suspicious food for testing. Later, after ensuring Molly was safely asleep, Vincent confronted Dominique in their bedroom. "Preston Westerly," he said simply, watching her face drain of color. "What's your relationship with him?" "He's a colleague," she responded weakly. "Try again." Vincent's voice remained level, but his eyes had turned to ice. "Phone records show 67 calls between you in the past month. His car has been photographed at the Lakeside Motel when you claimed to be at charity events." "Want me to continue?" Dominique sank onto the bed. "It's not what you think." "What I think," Vincent said, stepping closer, "is that whatever you two are involved in has affected my daughter's health. And that, Dominique, is something I will never forgive." Chapter 3. Breaking Point. The laboratory results arrived via encrypted email the following morning. Molly's yogurt contained traces of multiple prescription medications, corticosteroids, appetite stimulants, and sedatives, a combination that explained her weight gain, lethargy, and stomach pain. Vincent's hands shook with barely controlled rage. Someone was poisoning his daughter, and all evidence pointed to his own wife. Sullivan's investigation had yielded more disturbing connections. Preston Westerly, beyond his position on the hospital board, was conducting unauthorized clinical trials on an experimental weight management protocol for children. His research funding had been quietly revoked 6 months ago for ethical violations, but evidence suggested he'd continued in secret. Vincent made 2 calls, first to his attorney to discuss custody proceedings, then to the private security team he'd assembled. By afternoon, surveillance equipment had been discreetly installed throughout the house. That evening, Vincent maintained a facade of normalcy, informing Dominique he'd be traveling for business the following day. Instead, he monitored the house remotely from a hotel 5 minutes away. The footage revealed Dominique meeting Westerly in the guest house at 11 a.m. Vincent watched with growing fury as they discussed increasing Molly's dosage and accelerating the timeline. The preliminary results are promising, Westerly said, reviewing data on his tablet. At this growth rate, she'll qualify for the trial's final phase in 3 weeks. But the side effects, Dominique protested weakly. She's in pain, Preston. Minor discomfort for groundbreaking research, Westerly dismissed. Think of the children will help once the protocol is approved. Your daughter is helping change medicine. And my stake in the pharmaceutical patent, Dominique asked, secured. Once Brightline Pharmaceuticals acquires my research, we'll both be very wealthy. Your husband's company might dominate prosthetics, but our drug will revolutionize childhood obesity treatment. Vincent had heard enough. He forwarded the footage to his attorney with instructions for immediate action and returned home unexpectedly, finding Dominique alone in the kitchen preparing Molly's lunch. Going somewhere? Vincent asked, noticing the partially packed suitcase in the hallway. Dominique jumped. Vincent, I thought you were in Chicago. Clearly, he replied coldly. Planning a trip with our daughter? Molly needs a change of scenery. The beach house would. Stop lying. Vincent's voice was deadly quiet. I know everything, Dominique. About Westerly, the medications, your plans for Molly. Dominique's expression hardened. You don't understand. This research will help thousands of children. Molly's temporary discomfort serves a greater purpose. You've been poisoning our daughter for profit, Vincent growled, advancing toward her. It's not poison. Dominique snapped. It's control medication under a doctor's supervision. A doctor conducting illegal trials on children, Vincent corrected. Tell me, how much is our daughter's health worth? What's your cut of the patent? Dominique's silence confirmed his worst suspicions. I've already contacted my attorney, Vincent continued. You'll be served with divorce papers tomorrow. As for custody, you can't prove anything, Dominique interrupted. It's my word against yours, and no judge will separate a mother from her child based on unsubstantiated accusations. Vincent smiled coldly. That's where you're wrong. Every medication you've given Molly has been documented and preserved as evidence. Every conversation with Westerly recorded. You're not just losing this marriage, Dominique. You're facing criminal charges. Dominique's face contorted with rage and fear. You bastard. You've always controlled everything, everyone. This was my chance at independence, at creating something important without living in your shadow. By experimenting on our daughter? Vincent's voice rose for the first time. You want independence? You'll have plenty of time for that in prison. That night, Vincent sat beside Molly's bed, watching her fitful sleep and calculating how long it would take for the medications to leave her system. His phone vibrated with a text from Sullivan. Surveillance shows Westerly entering Southgate. Approaching main house, Vincent kissed Molly's forehead and descended the stairs just as the doorbell rang. Preston Westerly stood on the threshold, confidence personified in his bespoke suit and practiced smile. Vincent, unexpected pleasure. Is Dominique available? She's indisposed, Vincent replied evenly. But I've been looking forward to meeting you properly. Perhaps another time, Westerly suggested, suddenly wary. I just needed to drop off some committee documents. At 9 p.m.? I don't think so. Vincent blocked the doorway. I believe we have much to discuss. About my daughter. About your research. About your relationship with my wife. Westerly's professional demeanor faltered. I don't know what Dominique has told you, but she hasn't told me anything, Vincent interrupted. But you will. Every detail of what you've been giving my daughter, why, and who else is involved. Your career and freedom depend on it. As Westerly began stammering excuses, Molly's cry echoed from upstairs, followed by the sound of retching. Vincent bounded up the stairs to find his daughter collapsed on the bathroom floor, pale and trembling. Daddy, she whispered, I don't feel good. Vincent gathered her into his arms, his heart pounding as he felt her burning forehead. Call 911, he shouted downstairs, not caring whether Westerly or Dominique responded. As the ambulance sirens approached, Vincent cradled his semi-conscious daughter, whispering, "Hold on, princess. I'll fix this. I promise." Chapter 4. Emergency. The emergency room erupted into controlled chaos as Vincent burst through the doors carrying Molly, her small body limp in his arms. Medical staff swarmed around them, voices urgent but professional as they transferred her to a gurney. 10-year-old female, presenting with sudden onset vomiting, fever, and altered consciousness. The intake nurse rattled off as a doctor rushed forward. "She's been experiencing weight gain, stomach pain, and lethargy for months," Vincent added, his usually commanding voice tinged with desperation. She may have been given medications without proper medical supervision." Dr. Laurel Thornfield, the attending physician, shot him a sharp look. "What medications?" "Corticosteroids, appetite stimulants, possibly sedatives. I had samples tested yesterday." Vincent handed over a flash drive. "The full lab report is here." Dr. Thornfield's expression darkened as she scanned the information on her tablet. "This is consistent with medication poisoning. We need a full tox screen, comprehensive metabolic panel, and liver function tests immediately. And page pediatric intensive care." As they wheeled Molly away, Vincent caught her small hand. "I'll be right here, princess. You're going to be okay." In the waiting area, Vincent paced like a caged predator, ignoring the calls flooding his phone from Dominique. Sullivan materialized beside him, his presence solid and reassuring. "Boss, Westerly tried to flee after the ambulance left. My team is holding him at the house until police arrive. And Dominique? Also contained. She's demanding lawyers." Vincent nodded grimly. "Keep them separated. I want full surveillance on both. If either attempts to contact anyone besides attorneys, I want to know immediately." Hours passed in agonizing slowness. Around midnight, Dr. Thornfield approached, her face grave. "Mr. Hargrove, Molly's condition is critical but stabilizing. She's experiencing acute adrenal crisis. Her body's reaction to the abrupt withdrawal of corticosteroids that were apparently being administered regularly, combined with what appears to be an overdose within the last 24 hours. Vincent's blood ran cold. Overdose. The levels in her system are consistent with someone giving her significantly more than the previous doses. Without intervention, it could have been fatal. The implication hit Vincent like physical blow. After their confrontation, Dominique must have given Molly a larger dose, either in panic or deliberate malice. "We're implementing appropriate treatment protocols," Dr. Thornfield continued. "But Mr. Hargrove, I've had to notify Child Protective Services and the police. Deliberate medication poisoning of a child is a criminal matter. I understand. I want the people responsible prosecuted to the fullest extent," Vincent replied, his voice hard. "When can I see her?" "She's being settled in pediatric ICU. A nurse will take you shortly." "But sir," Dr. Thornfield hesitated, "given the circumstances, an officer will need to speak with you as well." Vincent spent the remainder of the night beside Molly's bed, watching the rhythm of her breathing stabilize as medications countered the damage inflicted on her small body. By morning, 2 detectives from Baltimore PD's Special Victims Unit arrived, accompanied by a CPS caseworker. Detective Russell Barlow introduced himself, his weathered face betraying no emotion. "Mr. Hargrove, we need to understand exactly what's happened to your daughter." For the next hour, Vincent provided a detailed account, supplemented by the evidence he'd gathered: the lab tests of Molly's food, surveillance footage of Dominique and Westerly's conversations, and documentation from Dr. Witten's examination. "You've been thorough," Detective Barlow observed, reviewing the materials. "Most parents in your situation wouldn't have the presence of mind or resources to collect this kind of evidence." "I protect what's mine," Vincent stated simply. The CPS caseworker, Ms. Daniels, leaned forward. "Mr. Hargrove, we need to establish a safety plan for Molly upon discharge. Given the allegations against her mother." "My daughter will remain exclusively in my custody," Vincent interrupted. "I've already filed emergency papers through my attorney." "Nevertheless, we'll need to conduct our own investigation," Ms. Daniels persisted. "Investigate all you want," Vincent responded coldly. But my daughter doesn't leave my sight. As morning stretched into afternoon, Molly's condition improved enough for her to regain consciousness. Her first words were confused. "Daddy? Where's Mom?" Vincent stroked her hair gently. "Mom can't be here right now, Princess. But I'm not going anywhere." Molly's eyes filled with tears. "It was the special smoothies and snacks, wasn't it? The ones that were supposed to make me stronger and healthier." "What do you mean, Molly?" Vincent asked carefully, aware that Detective Barlow had quietly entered the room. "Mom and Dr. Preston said I was special, that I was helping other kids by taking the special medicine," Molly explained, her voice small. "But it made my tummy hurt, and I kept getting bigger even though I wasn't eating more. When I told Mom I wanted to stop, she said." Her voice faltered. "What did she say, sweetheart?" Vincent encouraged gently. "She said, sometimes we have to do hard things for the greater good. That the medicine would help thousands of children someday, and I should be proud." Molly's face crumpled. "But I didn't want to take it anymore, Daddy. It made me feel so sick." Detective Barlow stepped forward. "Molly, I'm Detective Barlow. Would it be okay if I asked you a few questions about these special smoothies?" As Molly recounted months of being given special foods and supplements, Vincent's phone vibrated with a text from Sullivan. "Police have taken Westerly and Dominique into custody. Charges pending. Also, discovered Westerly attempting to delete files from home computer. Data recovery team working now." Vincent excused himself briefly to make a call to his attorney, instructing her to push for the most serious charges possible against both Dominique and Westerly. As he returned to Molly's room, Detective Barlow met him in the hallway. "Mr. Hargrove, we're going to need you to come to the station. There's been a development." "I'm not leaving my daughter," Vincent stated firmly. "Sir," Barlow's voice lowered, "the officers at your home discovered something during their search. Your wife is demanding to speak with you immediately. She says it concerns Molly's parentage." Vincent's expression didn't change, but something cold and deadly settled in his eyes. "Have the officers bring her here. Whatever she has to say, she can say it in custody with my attorney present." Chapter 5. Shattered Truths. An hour later, Vincent sat in a private conference room at the hospital. His attorney, Marissa, fell beside him. Across the table, Dominique, handcuffed and escorted by an officer, glared at him with a mixture of defiance and desperation. "5 minutes," Detective Barlow announced, "and everything said in this room will be recorded." "Vincent," Dominique began, her voice attempting warmth that didn't reach her eyes, "this has all gone too far. You know I would never deliberately harm Molly." "Save it," Vincent cut her off. "The evidence is overwhelming. You're facing felony child endangerment charges at minimum, possibly attempted murder after yesterday's overdose." "It wasn't an overdose," Dominique protested. "Preston said increasing the dosage was necessary to advance your illegal drug trial, to secure your pharmaceutical patent." Vincent's voice remained terrifyingly calm. "Detective Barlow mentioned you had something to say about Molly's parentage." "Make it quick." Dominique's expression transformed, calculation replacing her feigned contrition. "You've always been so certain of everything, Vincent. So confident in your control. But there's something even the great Vincent Hargrove doesn't know." She leaned forward, dropping her voice. "Molly isn't your biological daughter." The room went silent. Vincent's face revealed nothing, but Marissa placed a cautioning hand on his arm. "Preston and I have been involved for 12 years, Dominique continued, watching for any reaction. "Molly is his child, not yours. The DNA will prove it." Vincent studied his wife with the cold assessment he usually reserved for business rivals preparing to be destroyed. "Is it your attempt at leverage? You think threatening me with this will somehow mitigate what you've done?" "It's not a threat. It's a reality you'll have to face in court," Dominique responded. "The custody battle changes completely when paternity is disputed, and Preston's research, while perhaps ethically questionable, was conducted with the biological father's consent, which would make Westerly equally culpable." Marissa interjected. "Biological relationship or not, he participated in systematically poisoning a child. That's still a felony." Vincent stood abruptly. "We're done here." "Detective, I'll submit to any DNA test the court requires, but my daughter's medical treatment takes priority over these desperate tactics. As Vincent turned to leave, Dominique called after him. She was never supposed to be harmed. The protocol was safe until... Vincent paused, turning slowly. Until what? Dominique's eyes darted to the detective, then back to Vincent. Until someone tampered with the medication yesterday. The dose I gave her wasn't what caused the collapse. Someone must have switched or contaminated it. Detective Barlow stepped forward. Mrs. Hargrove, are you alleging someone else poisoned your daughter? The medication I've been giving her was carefully measured, Dominique insisted. Whatever caused her collapse yesterday wasn't what I administered. Vincent exchanged glances with Detective Barlow, whose expression remained professionally neutral. We'll investigate all possibilities, Mrs. Hargrove. Now, you'll be transported to central booking for processing. Back in Molly's hospital room, Vincent found Dr. Thornfield reviewing her latest test results. Her numbers are improving, the doctor reported. The emergency treatment protocol is working. If this continues, she could be stable enough for discharge in a few days, though she'll need ongoing care to address the long-term effects of the medications. Whatever she needs, Vincent assured her. I'll arrange for the best specialists. After Dr. Thornfield left, Vincent sat beside Molly's bed, watching her sleep peacefully for the first time in months. His phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. Package delivered to your office, as requested. Contents may shock you. Dr. M. Vincent recognized the cryptic signature of Dr. Meera Agarwal, the forensic toxicologist he'd engaged privately to analyze the medications found in Molly's system. Whatever she'd discovered had been significant enough to warrant special handling. As evening approached, Detective Barlow returned with news. Mr. Hargrove, we've spoken with the district attorney. Based on the evidence in Molly's statement, they're charging both your wife and Dr. Westerly with first-degree child endangerment, conspiracy to commit fraud, practicing medicine without proper consent, and related charges. And the overdose? Vincent asked pointedly. We're still investigating that aspect, Barlow replied carefully. The timing coincides with your confrontation with Mrs. Hargrove, which suggests possible intentional harm, but we need conclusive evidence. After Barlow left, Vincent called Sullivan. I need you at the hospital now. It's time to accelerate our contingency plans. Sullivan arrived 30 minutes later, bringing a secure laptop and documents requiring Vincent's signature. Everything's arranged as you specified, he reported. Safe house is prepared, security team assembled, and the jet is standing by if needed. Vincent signed the papers authorizing a series of financial maneuvers that would effectively isolate his assets from any claims Dominique might make. What about Westerly's research documents? Our team recovered everything before the police seized his computers, Sullivan confirmed. The data shows they've been running unauthorized trials on at least 7 other children, all with fabricated parental consent forms. Brightline Pharmaceuticals was prepared to pay millions for the protocol once it showed successful results in pediatric subjects. And the parents? Mostly single mothers in financial distress. Westerly offered them cash payments, disguised as study participation stipends. Vincent processed this information coldly. Contact those families anonymously. Make sure they have everything they need to pursue their own legal action against Westerly and Brightline. Sullivan nodded, then hesitated. Boss, about Mrs. Hargrove's claim regarding Molly's paternity. Already handling it, Vincent cut him off. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. Molly is my daughter in every way that matters. That night, as Molly slept under the watchful eye of a private nurse Vincent had hired, he slipped away to his company headquarters. In his office, he found the package Dr. Agarwal had sent, a sealed forensic envelope and detailed report. The findings confirmed his suspicions. The medication that had caused Molly's collapse contained concentrated amounts of the original drugs, but also traces of a compound typically used in specialized research, a compound manufactured exclusively by a subsidiary of Brightline Pharmaceuticals. More damning was the timing. According to the molecular degradation analysis, this particular combination had been prepared less than 2 hours before Molly consumed it, during the exact time Dominique had been meeting with Westerly in the guest house. Vincent placed a call to Detective Barlow, his voice controlled despite the rage burning inside him. Detective, I have evidence that the overdose was premeditated. I'm sending it to you now. After ending the call, Vincent opened his safe and removed a small flash drive labeled simply contingency. On it was everything he'd need for what came next. The complete destruction of everyone involved in hurting his daughter. Chapter 6. The Unraveling. The following morning brought the arrival of hospital legal counsel and administrators, their faces grave as they requested an urgent meeting with Vincent. Mr. Hargrove, began Gloria Montgomery, the hospital's chief legal officer, we've been cooperating fully with the police investigation into Dr. Westerly's activities, and I'm afraid we've uncovered disturbing information that affects your daughter. Vincent sat perfectly still, his expression unreadable. Go on. Dr. Westerly was conducting unauthorized trials using an experimental compound developed by Brightline Pharmaceuticals, Montgomery explained. What we didn't realize until now was the extent of the hospital's potential liability. It appears several administrators may have turned a blind eye to his activities in exchange for research funding. Names, Vincent demanded. Montgomery hesitated. That's still part of an ongoing internal investigation, but we wanted to inform you first because... She slid a document across the table. This appears to be a consent form with your signature, authorizing Molly's participation in the trial. Vincent examined the document, his jaw tightening imperceptibly. This signature is forged. We suspected as much, Montgomery nodded, which raises serious questions about how many other consent forms were falsified. The hospital board has authorized me to discuss settlement options with affected families, including yours. Vincent folded the document carefully and placed it in his jacket pocket. Ms. Montgomery, let me be clear, I'm not interested in a settlement. I intend to see everyone involved in this, from Westerly to the board members who enabled him, face criminal charges and complete professional destruction. Mr. Hargrove, I understand your anger, but litigation could take years. Then you'd better prepare for a long battle, Vincent interrupted coldly. My daughter nearly died because your hospital failed in its most basic duty of care. No amount of money will change that, but I will ensure accountability at every level. After Montgomery departed, Vincent received a call from Detective Barlow. The DA's reviewed the evidence you provided. Barlow informed him. They're upgrading the charges against both Westerly and your wife to include attempted murder. The timing of the overdose and the specialized compound leaves little doubt about intent. What about Brightline Pharmaceuticals? Vincent asked. Search warrants are being executed at their offices as we speak, Barlow confirmed. Initial findings suggest executives were aware of Westerly's methods, but deliberately maintained distance to preserve deniability. Not distance enough, Vincent remarked coldly. By afternoon, Molly had improved enough to sit up and eat solid food. Vincent sat beside her bed, helping her with a cup of applesauce, when his attorney arrived with news. The judge granted the emergency custody order, Marissa reported quietly. You have sole legal and physical custody pending the outcome of the criminal proceedings. Dominique's being denied bail due to flight risk and the severity of the charges. And the paternity issue? The court has ordered DNA testing, but regardless of the outcome, her parental rights are likely to be terminated given the circumstances. Marissa hesitated. Vincent, have you considered how you'll handle this with Molly if Westerly is her biological father? Vincent finished, his voice low to avoid Molly overhearing. Nothing changes. She's my daughter, period. I've raised her, loved her, protected her, and I'll continue to do so. That evening, as Molly slept, Vincent received a visit from Adrienne Westerly, Preston's wife. Elegant, even in distress, she requested a private conversation. I had no idea what Preston was doing, she began once they were alone. The police have seized everything, our accounts, properties, even my personal belongings as potential evidence. I'm not sure what you expect from me, Mrs. Westerly, Vincent replied coolly. Information, she said simply. The police aren't telling me anything. Preston won't speak to me. I need to understand what happened. Vincent studied her carefully. Your husband was conducting illegal drug trials on children, including my daughter. He conspired with my wife to administer potentially lethal medications to Molly without my knowledge or consent, all for profit and professional recognition. Adrian paled. That's not possible. Preston is a respected pediatric researcher. He would never. The evidence is conclusive, Vincent interrupted. And based on documents recovered from his office, this wasn't his first unauthorized trial. There are records of at least 3 previous studies involving children, all with questionable consent procedures. Oh God, Adrian whispered, genuine horror crossing her face. The trials in Atlanta 2 years ago, and before that in Boston. I thought those were legitimate studies. He told me they were revolutionizing childhood medicine. Vincent leaned forward. What exactly do you know about those studies? Only what Preston shared, that they were developing targeted treatments for childhood obesity and related conditions. He was so proud of the results. Her voice faltered. There were complications with some patients, but he said that was normal in clinical research. Complications, Vincent repeated flatly. Did these complications include the death of a 7-year-old boy in Boston? Jason Mercer. Does that name mean anything to you? Adrienne's shocked expression answered before she could speak. A child died? Preston never mentioned. He told me the Boston study was discontinued due to funding issues. It was discontinued because Jason Mercer suffered fatal liver failure after receiving experimental medications similar to those given to Molly, Vincent informed her coldly. His parents were paid $3 million in a confidential settlement. The records were buried, the case never went public, and Westerly simply moved to a new hospital to continue his research. As the implications settled over her, Adrienne's composure crumbled. I had investments in Brightline. Preston suggested them as a growth opportunity. Have I been profiting from this? Unwittingly or not, Vincent confirmed, you've benefited from your husband's activities. The question now is what you're prepared to do about it. After a moment of silent deliberation, Adrienne straightened her shoulders. Everything. I'll tell the prosecutors everything I know, the previous studies, the financial arrangements, the connections to Brightline executives. Preston doesn't deserve protection after what he's done. A wise decision, Vincent nodded. Detective Barlow will be interested in your testimony. After Adrienne left, Vincent stood at the window overlooking the hospital parking lot, watching her departure with calculated interest. His phone vibrated with a message from Sullivan. DNA results in. Confirmation of your instructions requested. Vincent's reply was immediate. Proceed as planned. All parameters. Later that night, as Vincent kept vigil beside Molly's bed, Dr. Thornfield arrived with updated test results. Her system is clearing the medications more quickly than expected, the doctor reported with cautious optimism. Her liver and kidney functions are improving, and the adrenal crisis has been successfully managed. If this trend continues, she could be discharged within 48 hours. To recover where? Vincent asked. Our home is still partially a crime scene. I understand you've made alternative arrangements? Dr. Thornfield inquired. Vincent nodded. A private property with full medical facilities and security. My team is preparing it now. As morning approached, Vincent received the call he'd been anticipating. Detective Barlow's voice was strained even through the professional demeanor. Mr. Hargrove, I need you to come to the station immediately. My daughter. This can't wait, Barlow interrupted. It concerns your wife. There's been an incident at the detention center. Chapter 7. Calculated Moves. Vincent entered the police station at precisely 7:30 a.m., his appearance immaculate despite the sleepless night. Detective Barlow escorted him to a private conference room where Captain Eleanor Reese waited, her expression grim. Mr. Hargrove, she began formally, at approximately 4:17 this morning, your wife was found unresponsive in her cell. Despite emergency medical intervention, she was pronounced dead at 5:04 a.m. Vincent's face revealed nothing. Cause. Preliminary indications suggest poisoning. Captain Reese answered, watching him carefully. Toxicology is pending, but initial symptoms align with ingestion of a compound similar to what was found in your daughter's system, only at a significantly higher concentration. Are you suggesting a connection? Vincent asked coolly. We're investigating all possibilities, Barlow interjected. Security footage shows no unauthorized access to her cell, and she had no visitors except her attorney yesterday afternoon. I was at the hospital all night with multiple witnesses, Vincent pointed out. If you're implying involvement on my part, we're simply informing you as next of kin, Captain Reese clarified. However, the timing and method raise obvious questions, especially given recent events. Vincent leaned forward slightly. Captain, my wife conspired to poison my daughter for profit. She betrayed our family in the most fundamental way possible. While I won't pretend to mourn her death, I had nothing to do with it. After answering further questions with practiced precision, Vincent was permitted to leave. Outside the station, Sullivan waited with the car. Everything is proceeding as anticipated, Sullivan reported once they were moving. The safe house is fully prepared. Medical staff have been vetted and secured, and the other matter has been addressed. Vincent nodded. And Westerly? Being transferred to county detention this morning following his arraignment. Bail was denied. His reaction to the news about Dominique? Sullivan allowed himself a small smile. Complete breakdown. Demanded protective custody, claiming he'd be next. Perceptive of him, Vincent remarked coldly. Back at the hospital, Vincent found Molly awake and significantly improved. Some color returned to her cheeks as she watched cartoons on the room's television. Daddy, she brightened when he entered. Dr. Thornfield says I might go home soon. Vincent sat beside her, taking her small hand in his. Not home just yet, princess. We're going to stay somewhere special while you finish getting better. A beautiful house by the lake with your own nurse to help you. What about Mom? Molly asked hesitantly. Is she still in trouble? Vincent had prepared for this question, knowing honesty, measured and age-appropriate, was necessary. Molly, something very serious has happened. Your mother became very ill last night, and the doctors weren't able to help her. She's passed away. Molly's eyes widened, tears forming immediately. Mom died? Yes, sweetheart. Vincent gathered her gently into his arms. I'm so sorry. Was it because of this special medicine? The one she and Dr. Preston were giving me. Molly's perception startled him. The police are still figuring that out, Vincent answered carefully. But what's most important now is taking care of you and helping you get better. As Molly processed this information with the complex emotions only a child could experience, grief tangled with confusion and a lingering hurt of betrayal, Vincent held her, providing the stability she desperately needed. Later that afternoon, Dr. Thornfield approved Molly's discharge plan, impressed by the comprehensive medical arrangements Vincent had prepared. You've thought of everything, she observed, reviewing the documentation. The private nursing staff, physical therapy, psychological support. It's exactly what Molly needs for recovery. I protect what's mine, Vincent replied simply. As they prepared for departure, Marissa arrived with updates on the legal proceedings. Brightline Pharmaceuticals executives are being indicted, she reported. The evidence recovered from Westerly's computers in their offices was damning. They knew exactly what he was doing and bankrolled it specifically to circumvent proper clinical trial procedures. And the hospital board members who looked the other way? 3 have resigned already. The hospital is cooperating fully, eager to avoid the public relations disaster and potential criminal charges. Marissa hesitated. There's something else. The DNA results came back. Vincent maintained his composure. And Westerly is not Molly's biological father. Marissa studied his reaction carefully. You are. For the briefest moment, something almost like relief flickered across Vincent's face before his usual control reasserted itself. Dominique's final attempt at leverage, then, unsuccessful like all her others. There's more, Marissa continued. The medical examiner completed the preliminary autopsy on Dominique. The substance that killed her was a concentrated form of the experimental compound from Westerly's research, administered in what appears to be a self-injection. They found a syringe in her cell with her fingerprints exclusively. Suicide, Vincent stated flatly. That's the working theory, yes. Possibly out of remorse or fear of facing the consequences. Marissa paused. The investigation remains open, but given the evidence, a fitting end, Vincent remarked coldly. She lived by these poisons and died by them. By evening, Vincent and Molly were settled in the lakeside property, an expansive, secluded estate with state-of-the-art security and medical facilities installed in a converted guest wing. As Molly slept under the watchful eye of her private nurse, Vincent received an encrypted call from Sullivan. Phase 2 is complete, Sullivan reported cryptically. Westerly's attorney received the complete documentation packet as arranged. The Boston case files, the Atlanta victims, everything. His reaction? Immediate meeting with prosecutors. He's offering full cooperation in exchange for placement in protective custody and consideration during sentencing. Let him talk, Vincent instructed. Once he's implicated everyone involved at Brightline and the hospital, we move to Phase 3. Over the next 2 weeks, Molly's recovery progressed steadily. The medications cleared from her system, her weight began normalizing, and the psychological counseling helped her process the complex trauma of her mother's betrayal and death. Vincent worked remotely, dividing his time between company operations and orchestrating the systematic destruction of everyone connected to Westerly's research. Each day brought new developments. Brightline stock plummeted as executives were arrested. Hospital administrators faced criminal charges for negligent oversight. Medical licenses were revoked. Careers and reputations disintegrated. Through carefully anonymized channels, Vincent ensured that every family affected by Westerly's previous trials received comprehensive documentation to pursue their own legal action. Class action lawsuits multiplied daily, targeting the deep pockets of the pharmaceutical company and hospital systems that had enabled the research. When Detective Barlow visited the safe house to update them on the investigation, he brought news that Dominique's death had been officially ruled a suicide. The case is closed on that aspect, Barlow informed Vincent. Though questions remain about how she obtained the compound inside a secure facility. Perhaps she had accomplices we haven't identified, Vincent suggested. Or perhaps it was her final attempt to escape justice. Barlow studied him thoughtfully. Perhaps. Westerly continues to cooperate extensively, apparently terrified that he'll meet a similar fate. His testimony has led to 12 additional arrests at Brightline and partnering research facilities. Justice works in unexpected ways, Vincent observed. As Barlow prepared to leave, he paused. Mr. Hargrove, in my 20 years on the force, I've never seen a case unravel so completely, so quickly. Every piece of evidence appearing at precisely the right moment. Every witness coming forward with exactly the right information. The truth has a way of emerging when powerful people can no longer suppress it, Vincent replied smoothly. Indeed, Barlow nodded. Especially when someone knows exactly where to look and who to pressure. Their eyes met in tacit understanding. Barlow recognizing the calculated orchestration behind the case's progression, Vincent acknowledging the detective's awareness without concern. Both men had their own definition of justice, and in this instance, they had aligned sufficiently. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. 3 months after Molly's hospitalization, Preston Westerly sat in the witness box of a federal courtroom, his once commanding presence reduced to a hollow shell. As the star witness for the prosecution, he had spent days detailing the full extent of his crimes, the unauthorized trials, the falsified data, the deliberate endangerment of children, and the deaths he had previously concealed. Vincent observed from the gallery, his face impassive as Westerly described the arrangement with Dominique. Mrs. Hargrove approached me initially, Westerly testified, after a fundraising event where I discussed my research. She expressed interest not just in the medical applications, but in the potential financial returns if the protocol was successful. She suggested Molly as a test subject, claiming the child had been showing early signs of metabolic issues that made her an ideal candidate. And you didn't verify this with her father? The prosecutor asked. Dominique assured me she had full medical authority for Molly. She produced what appeared to be signed consent forms. Westerly swallowed hard. I didn't scrutinize them as carefully as I should have. Let's be clear, Dr. Westerly, the prosecutor pressed. You administered experimental medications to a child without confirming proper parental consent, outside approved clinical protocols, and without proper oversight, correct? Yes, Westerly admitted, his voice barely audible. And this wasn't the first time, was it? Please tell the court about Jason Mercer. As Westerly recounted the death of the 7-year-old boy in Boston, a ripple of shock passed through the courtroom. Vincent's expression remained unchanged, though his eyes never left Westerly's face. Following the day's testimony, Vincent met with federal prosecutors handling the case against Brightline Pharmaceuticals. Their offices had been inundated with evidence. Internal memos, financial records, communications proving executives had knowingly funded Westerly's illegal research with full awareness of his methods. The CEO and chief medical officer will be indicted tomorrow, the lead prosecutor informed Vincent. The evidence your team uncovered is irrefutable. They destroyed lives for profit, Vincent stated coldly. Make sure the charges reflect that. Back at the lakeside property, now their permanent residence after Vincent had sold their former home, Molly was completing a session with her physical therapist. Her recovery had been remarkable. Her weight normalizing, energy returning, and the psychological wounds beginning to heal through consistent therapy. Dad, watch this, she called as Vincent entered, demonstrating her ability to complete a complex balance exercise that had challenged her for weeks. Impressive, princess, he smiled, one of the few genuine expressions he reserved exclusively for her. Dr. Michaels says you're making exceptional progress. After dinner, as they sat on the deck overlooking the lake, Molly grew contemplative. Dad, is Dr. Preston going to jail for a long time? Vincent considered how to answer truthfully yet appropriately. Yes, he is. The judge will decide exactly how long. But he's admitted to doing very bad things to you and other children. Molly nodded slowly. And Mom helped him. She did, Vincent confirmed gently. But that doesn't mean she didn't love you in her own way. But she chose money over me, Molly observed with the painful clarity children sometimes possess. That's what my therapist says, that sometimes adults make terrible choices even when they should know better. Vincent took her hand. That's true. But I want you to know that I will always choose you, Molly. Always. Later that night, after Molly had gone to bed, Vincent received a call from Sullivan. It's done, Sullivan reported. The transfer is complete. Westerly's commissary account received the deposit as arranged. And the other inmates? Information has been selectively distributed. His protective custody request has been administratively delayed due to overcrowding. Vincent ended the call without further comment. Within hours, news would reach him that Preston Westerly had been brutally attacked in the shower area of the county jail, an unfortunate incident where guards had been inexplicably absent from their posts for precisely 7 minutes. The following day, as Westerly fought for his life in the prison medical ward, Vincent attended a board meeting at Nexus Bionics. His company had emerged unscathed from the scandal, his reputation enhanced by his public stance as a father fighting for justice after his daughter was victimized. The acquisition of Brightline's research division has been approved, his CFO announced, at the fire sale price we proposed, given their legal and financial situation. Excellent, Vincent nodded. Dismantle their current research programs and integrate any salvageable technologies into our pediatric division. And implement the new Ethics Oversight Committee immediately. I want this company to become the gold standard for research integrity. After the meeting, Vincent's private investigator delivered a final report on the remaining loose ends, individuals tangentially connected to Westerly's schemes who had thus far avoided prosecution. The hospital administrator who approved the initial research space allocation has resigned and relocated to Arizona, the investigator detailed. The lab technician who processed the samples without proper authorization has agreed to testify against remaining Brightline executives. And Adrian Westerly? Yes. Vincent prompted. She's filed for divorce and changed her name. currently working at a medical nonprofit in Seattle, completely disconnected from her former life. Vincent considered this information. Monitor her from a distance. No direct action unless she attempts to profit from her connection to this case. With methodical precision, Vincent had orchestrated the complete dismantling of everyone involved in harming Molly, from Dominique's suspicious death to Westerly's prison accident, from Brightline's corporate implosion to the professional destruction of every enabler. Not through impulsive revenge, but through a carefully calculated series of legal maneuvers, strategic information releases, and occasionally, more direct interventions that could never be traced back to him. That evening, as he helped Molly with her science homework, his phone buzzed with a news alert. Preston Westerly had died from complications of his injuries, never having regained consciousness after the attack. Molly noticed the subtle shift in her father's expression. "Is everything okay, Dad?" Vincent set the phone aside. "Everything's fine, Princess. Just work news." He pointed to her assignment. "Now, tell me more about these cell structures you're studying." Chapter 9. New Foundations. 1 year after Molly's hospitalization, Vincent stood at the podium in the grand ballroom of Baltimore's finest hotel, addressing the assembled guests at the inaugural gala for the Hargrove Foundation for Medical Ethics and Child Protection. "We gather tonight not merely to launch a foundation," he began, his commanding presence drawing complete attention, "but to transform how medical research involving children is conducted, monitored, and regulated. What happened to my daughter and other children victimized by unethical practitioners cannot be allowed to happen again." The audience, comprising medical professionals, lawmakers, pharmaceutical executives, and victims' families, listened intently as Vincent outlined the Foundation's ambitious initiatives: independent oversight of pediatric clinical trials, legal advocacy for affected families, scholarships for ethics in medicine, and a whistleblower program that had already exposed 3 unauthorized research operations across the country. "From tragedy, we forge purpose," Vincent concluded. "From betrayal, we build safeguards. And from the darkest chapter of my family's life, we create a legacy of protection for all children." The applause was thunderous, particularly from the families seated in the front row, parents whose children had been previous victims of Westerly's experiments, now finding justice and purpose through Vincent's methodically constructed support network. Following the speech, Vincent navigated the crowd with practiced ease, accepting congratulations and pledges of support. Among the attendees was Detective Barlow, now promoted to captain following his role in the Westerly case. "Impressive operation you've built," Barlow observed, gesturing to the Foundation's elaborate displays around the ballroom. "From victim to advocate in record time. Sometimes the most effective advocates are those who understand the cost of failure firsthand," Vincent replied. Barlow's expression turned contemplative. "You know, the investigation into Dominique Hargrove's death was never quite satisfactory to me. Too many convenient coincidences. Tragic events often involve coincidences, Captain. That's what makes them seem meaningful in retrospect." "Indeed," Barlow nodded slightly. "Just as it's coincidental that everyone who participated in harming your daughter has met with professional ruin, personal destruction, or death." Vincent met his gaze steadily. "Justice works in mysterious ways." "So it seems." Barlow extended his hand. "Congratulations on the Foundation, Mr. Hargrove. I have no doubt it will accomplish exactly what you intended to." The unspoken understanding passed between them. Barlow recognizing the architect behind a perfect revenge, Vincent acknowledging the detective's awareness without concern. Both men had their own moral codes, and in this instance, they had aligned just enough. Later that evening, Vincent returned to the lakeside home where Molly waited with her nanny. At 12, she had recovered fully from her ordeal, though regular therapy continued to help her process the complex emotions surrounding her mother's betrayal and death. "How was your big speech?" she asked, looking up from her book. "Successful," Vincent smiled, sitting beside her. "The Foundation raised over $10 million tonight. That's a lot of kids you'll be able to help," Molly observed thoughtfully. "Mom would have liked that part, I think. Not the way it happened, but that something good came from it." Vincent studied his daughter's face, seeing her remarkable resilience. Despite everything, she had found a way to reconcile the mother who had loved her with the woman who had betrayed her, a complexity Vincent himself had never attempted to resolve regarding Dominique. Perhaps, he allowed, neither confirming nor contradicting Molly's attempt to find meaning. "Dad," Molly hesitated. "Miss Chambers asked us to write about heroes for English class. I wrote about you." "Me?" Vincent's surprise was genuine. "You saved me," Molly said simply. "And now you're saving other kids too. That's what heroes do, right?" Vincent embraced her, this child who had somehow retained her capacity for love and hope despite experiencing betrayal by those meant to protect her. In that moment, he allowed himself to acknowledge what had driven his methodical campaign of destruction, not merely vengeance, but a fierce, primal need to protect what was his. The following morning, Vincent reviewed the final report from Sullivan on the remaining loose ends. Adrienne Westerly had maintained her new identity successfully, showing no signs of capitalizing on her connection to the case. The last of Brightline's executives had accepted a plea deal, ensuring the company's complete dismantling. And the hospital board members who had enabled Westerly had been permanently barred from medical administration. "Is that everything?" Vincent asked. "One last item," Sullivan reported. "The DNA samples from the paternity test, the ones showing you as Molly's biological father." Vincent's expression revealed nothing. "What about them?" "They've been permanently sealed in the court records, as requested. No possibility of future examination or comparison." Vincent nodded slightly. "Then we're truly finished. The complete erasure of everyone who threatened my family." Sullivan, who had orchestrated many of the coincidences that had befallen Westerly and his accomplices, understood the unspoken reality. The DNA results that had so conveniently confirmed Vincent as Molly's biological father had been as meticulously arranged as every other aspect of his revenge. Whether Westerly had actually been Molly's father would remain forever unknown. Vincent had ensured that truth, like so many others, was permanently obscured beneath layers of manufactured evidence and strategic intervention. In his world, reality was what he determined it to be, and he had determined that Molly was his daughter in every way that mattered. That afternoon, Vincent took Molly sailing on the lake, watching her laugh as she handled the small craft with growing confidence. "Can we invite Zoe next time?" she asked, referring to a friend from her new school. "Her dad used to sail, but they don't have a boat anymore." "Of course," Vincent agreed. "Why don't we have her family over for dinner this weekend?" As Molly chattered excitedly about her friend, Vincent observed her animated expressions, the spark of joy that had fully returned to her eyes. The child who had collapsed a year ago, poisoned by those meant to protect her, had been replaced by this vibrant, resilient girl, still bearing emotional scars, but healing and thriving under his protection. From the ashes of betrayal, Vincent had crafted not just revenge, but rebirth. He had systematically erased every threat, punished every transgression, and emerged with his position strengthened. The foundation would ensure Westerly's name was forever associated with medical criminality, while the Hargrove name would represent protection and advocacy. In the end, Vincent had done what he always did, protected what was his, destroyed those who threatened it, and turned catastrophe into advantage. Not through emotional outbursts or impulsive actions, but through calculated, meticulous planning